Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Jonathan Lipp from the Big Apple Film Festival. Thank you all for being here today. We're talking about film festival strategies. We have a number of guests with us today. We're going to be hosting 3 panels. Each one will be 45 to 50 minutes. This one will begin in just a moment, and the next one that will begin at noon, followed by a panel at 1 p.m. So that said, let's begin by discussing what we're going to be addressing today, which are film festival strategies. And this is a time when this is certainly one of the most important aspects of gaining exposure for your film in a time that is so different than anything we've seen in years past. Festivals at the moment are primarily virtual. We ourselves, Big Apple, we've done virtual festivals as well as drive-ins, and festivals are really doing whatever they can right now to serve independent filmmakers. And it's really a new world, a new dynamic for festivals and for filmmakers alike. So let me bring on our first guest with us. We have Dr. Rebekah Louisa Smith, who is right there. Hello, Rebekah. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. So Dr. Rebekah Louisa Smith is a film festival consultant. She has been working with filmmakers on strategies for finding the right festivals for their films, how to sort of navigate this new world of virtual festivals and how that's all been working. She has been successful in bringing filmmakers into top tier festivals, mid tier festivals, etc. Award nomination, 900 award nominations if you combine them all amongst her clients. But I will now turn it over to Rebekah and ask if you could just talk a little bit about your background, about yourself, perhaps some of the films and filmmakers you've represented, some of the festivals you've attended, and then we'll take it from there. Then we'll take some questions from our participants, and I'll have some questions for you as well. So,
Great.
Rebekah, let's talk about.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the very kind welcome. It's so great to be here, and I love doing these kind of panels. So my company began around 10 years ago, and that was through noticing there was a gap in the market. So I was producing or co-producing a horror film festival in Wales, Aberystwyth, UK, called the Abertoir Horror Festival when I was doing my PhD. And that was like a happy distraction from writing 24/7. And actually that distraction was like, hang on, this is what I really want to do in my life and my career is working in the film industry, in film festivals. When I spoke to the people that attended the festival, the filmmakers, they always said to me, when I asked them what they loved about festivals, they all enjoyed going and networking, getting their films on a big screen, winning awards and, having, more exposure and getting it seen theatrically. But they always told me that they were very stressed in terms of how to get into a festival. They didn't know anybody to turn to ask them which festivals are right for their film. They said, we just went online and hoped for the best. So I thought there's a gap in the market here, and there weren't many people doing it at the time. So I thought, right, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this a proper service that's going to be in demand. And 10 years later, 900 awards later, and one Oscar nomination later, we're here. So I love what I do, and I love helping filmmakers that just feel a bit overwhelmed with the whole festival world and haven't got a strategy. I just love helping them get into the right festivals, getting exposure, finding which homes are best for their film.
Right. And probably, I guess the biggest challenge right now for filmmakers is, as I just said before, the issue regarding we're not really in person at the moment, and virtual festivals seems to be the route. So I guess the first question I would have for you is, how may virtual film festivals still be valuable, let's say, for an independent filmmaker?
I think actually online virtual festivals are much more valuable now than when they first began back in March 2020. At first people thought, well, it will do for a couple of months, but people are seeing now the value, especially festivals, of how much more people they can access around the world. A lot of festivals realized when I was speaking to them, they said, well, we really like online because we're actually getting to outreach more people when we have networking sessions, when we have industry panels, all this kind of thing. Some films we have to geo-block to certain, to start territories, but some we don't have to. But it's good that we can get more of a worldwide recognition for our brand and the filmmakers and the films. So I can see it being here to stay, because a lot of festivals have been speaking about doing more and more hybrid until the world can fully get back to normal. You know, so where they're doing like partly live, partly in person. Garden State will be doing that next month. They'll be doing an online festival and also an in-person festival. Obviously in person being restricted, but that's all understandable. And online they can reach out to those that can't make it. So it's a good compensation, you know, it's a good way to actually make things happen. I think the massive thing for filmmakers right now when this all began was to just adjust to this new way of experiencing a film festival and to really figure out the new way to engage with it. And you can engage with it as long as you say watch all the films and really get involved in the festival and commit to, you know, turning up on your PC. Slightly weirder, but it still works. And now it's more valuable now that we have really good platforms to host online festivals on. Like Seed and Spark, BitPix, use, you know, Holly Shorts and BitPix is fantastic quality, you know, so it's not just Vimeo anymore and YouTube.
Yeah, and so how does it differ? Let's say, I mean, a filmmaker can essentially upload their films onto various platforms like Vimeo, Amazon, even YouTube. But how do you think it differs to be a part of a virtual film festival as opposed to simply, you know, uploading it, let's say, to Vimeo or something, or Amazon or something like that?
It feels more like an online festival when the festival make it more of a community kind of screenings. So in other words, they really, you know, give you emails each day like Sundance did, you know, to feel part of the community, part of the village, part of the networking, you know, and to keep you updated what's going on in that world. And also doing Instagram lives, Instagram posts, really just getting people to know about it more than just saying we're online. And also having like, you know, a proper kind of platform that emulates a festival. I think a really good platform has been Filmocracy. They hosted AFM and they also hosted the Paris International Film Festival, which I got really engaged in. We had a lot of our films that we won an award there, one of our clients. And it literally felt like you were in Paris. So what they did was they created these, you know, like the Eiffel Tower and, you know, and the cinemas and all these kind of French, like very French kind of recognizable French buildings and places you could network. And they were all organized. There was a map, there was the theater, there was the social room, there was step and repeat room. And it felt like you were at a festival because you were talking to the filmmakers and the festival made you feel like you were part of something else than just watching Vimeo. So it does have a lot of pressure on, to a degree, on the festival to really make it feel like a different world and to actually come into their brand and to make you feel welcome in their brand. So it differs from just putting on Vimeo, it's like it's on Vimeo, that's just on Vimeo. But then when it's actually part of the festival, really championing it and making everybody feel like they're part of that world and to come into their social rooms and to come into their, you know, networking rooms and to actually feel like they're part of a community that are all close together, it can work. I think New Filmmakers LA did a really good job as well. And they had loads of industry panels. Also, they had like coffee mornings on Zoom. It's like, I know it sounds weird, a coffee morning on Zoom, but then when you're together and they don't, you know, they don't like make one person just talk, but you all talk and you become community in your breakout rooms. It really works. And then you have that follow up afterwards on WhatsApp, Facebook.
Right. So it's really I guess the networking element, right?
Yes.
So if anybody has any questions for Rebekah regarding your film or any or festivals you may be interested in submitting to and trying to find out some information about the best way to approach that, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box and we will get to them and tell us a little bit about your project as well. And so while you are writing your questions there in the Q&A box, let me ask Rebekah as well, in terms of distribution, how have the films that you've worked with, the filmmakers that you've worked with, how have they done in terms of securing distribution through virtual festivals? Has that been something that's been happening? Have you been seeing, you know, your clients, you know, their films being acquired by distributors through virtual?
Yes, so it works as a team really. So it's not a case of the distribution companies looking all over on virtual festivals for films. Not always the way, but it's a case of festivals have actually helped with the laurels and get more interest and close deals with distribution companies and sales agents. But it is a case of having just to alert them. It's not like just finding it in amongst loads and loads of films on festivals. So we had to do a lot of online screenings, pretty much all online screenings for two of our films, one called Marcus, one called 86 Melrose Avenue. And Marcus is a really strong drama, no big stars, but it's got a very powerful cast of lots of awards. And the filmmaker was very keen to go obviously get distribution because he wanted that to get, you know, money back for the investors. And I put him in touch with one of our colleagues who runs the Hot Sauce for Film, Tania. She set a company up during the first lockdowns last year. And what she does is she helps find distribution. And she told us, you know, these are the right festivals, you're going the right path. You know, that will help me just secure some kind of distribution deal, I'm sure. And she got quite a lot of offers. We noticed, she told me this, that a lot of distribution companies now are looking for more content. Now that people are watching predominantly everything online and there's no theatres open, they're looking for stuff just, you know, to keep putting new stuff on, to give more choice to consumers, you know, to look for more content, really. They need it, even independent films. And we got quite a lot of offers, and he's got one now that he's going to go forwards with. He wanted to get the right deal, not just like a nothing deal. They were all money involved. It wasn't like, you know, freebies. They were all MGs up front and money up front. And with 86 Melrose Avenue was a similar thing. That had a team with that sort of team on board, people looking to get a sales agent, people looking to get distribution. And there were 2 offers, and one of them was the best one to go with. And it's won, like, I think it's almost 20 awards, that film now. And that helped with the laurels as well, to show it was traveling. So it gave them reassurance that, you know, it had an audience. And then they watched the film and said, yeah, we can sell it. And then they gave a good offer. So yes, I'm noticing more. I did worry there would be nothing happening because of the pandemic, but actually it's the opposite. People now manage to migrate quite well to the online world, and there is a need for more content of a high end that is independent film.
Right, right. So the virtual festivals can be beneficial even to acquiring a distribution deal, especially since a lot of the films that are mostly being showed, you know, via streaming platforms anyway. So
yes, exactly. That's predominantly obviously feature films than shorts, but yes, there is definitely a need.
Yeah, we have Denny asked, how do we get in touch with you? And yeah, at the end, we're going to put your we'll put your contact info into the, you know, the chat, you know, however you prefer, whether it's an email or you know, however website, however you want people to get in touch with you. We'll put that in the chat right at the end. That was Denny's question. So Lisa is on, and Lisa asked, she said, I began writing comedy pilots last year and have won 5 festivals. I'm going to my first live film festival in Atlanta at the end of March. Oh, that's great. Great to hear. She asked, what should I bring with me? Business cards? I want to get my project made. I have no idea what to expect. Thanks so much. P.S. There is a table read of my script, and this is a first. So yes, Lisa has an award-winning pilot script. She's heading to a festival in Atlanta. And what should she bring with her? She'd love to get this project underway.
One thing I would say first and foremost is to know your project inside out and have in your head rehearsed your elevator pitch. So when someone says, great, so what's it about? You can then just go boom. And it's not like a long 10-minute explanation. What it is a real succinct thumbnail sketch of what this project is and why it's different and unique and worth investing in. So for example, it'll be something like, oh, it's called X and it's about Y. And you talk a little bit more then about why it stands out from the kind of films in that genre and why you're bringing something that's fresh into it. So always have that ready. Have a business cards, yes. I mean, a lot of people nowadays like to put numbers in phones. I'm old school, I do business cards, so do take business cards, but also have like a one sheet. So the poster of your TV pilot, on the back, very succinct synopsis, not, you know, 10 pages, like, you know, a paragraph. And your contact details at the back so people can get any first impression and go, this is my kind of genre. This is a very cool poster. It's my kind of thing. And they can then look into it more with you. But you must know your project inside out. And don't give like loads and loads of papers where people see you. That's not what they want. Just a basic intro, want to know more about it, and then want to have a conversation. So it's a good thing to go to these festivals and start relationship building. That's the key. They're stepping stones festivals to the next big thing, which could be getting that off the ground or getting more connections with other people that could probably find the best suitable kind of way to get it off the ground. So that it's all kind of like a nice little clique. So we definitely would be prepared. And also don't go in there expecting to close a big deal. It's more a case of be yourself, be proud of your project, believe in your project, and then people will come towards you.
Right. Yeah, I was also going to say, you know, with everything going on today, you know, these days, the best thing is probably to have something real quick, like a business card and some sort of quick exchange, and then say, you know, I'll follow up with an email and we can talk on Zoom or FaceTime or whatever it might be, because, you know, I don't know how much in-person interacting they're going to allow at these festivals. I mean, maybe they will, I don't know, but I would imagine there's going to be very minimal in-person interacting probably at this time. So something quick, you know, here's my business card, you know, let's
Yes.
keep, I'll call you tomorrow. Kind of
Keep it at a distance, I suppose, is really. So a few festivals have gone live. I've been to a few, and it's kind of really wearing your masks, obviously, but being as normal as possible, just at a distance. And it does work. I've met people and it is work. It's just you have to just adapt to the mask thing and having your hands sanitized, but you can definitely get something from it.
Right, right. So there was, let's see, what is in the chat box? There was a couple of questions. Who is this? Oh, there's a chat. It's a question. I'm currently filming, editing, directing, producing a documentary on the history of identity, contributions, and challenges experienced by the First Nations men of Australia prior to colonization. Anyway, the question is, if I've already edited and filmed part of the documentary, can I seek funding that includes the expenses of what's already been done? So if you see that first question.
That's a difficult one because, let me just find it now. Oh yes, you're welcome, Lisa. And you wear gloves, that's good. Look at the chat. The issue with that in terms of funding for expenses, that really needs to kind of be done before so that you have everything ready for festivals, post-production, etc. But because it's a very, as you say, it's a, you know, quite a heavy, not heavy, but it's certainly a socially driven documentary, it could be worth when you have a rough cut, sorry, a locked picture lock to show people, maybe you could seek funding then, but it will be hard. I wouldn't guarantee that because normally funding all begins at the beginning when it's in development, not when it's finished. There are people that do, you know, finishing funds if you're having problems in post, but I'm not sure how that would work, to be honest. But I would, if you could, you know, you could always do your own crowdfunding. That would work, you know, and do a video as to why it's a unique project and why it needs to be seen, and not just say, oh, I've forgotten to finish it or whatever, or I need some money. Put it as, you know, why it's worth the investment. And what type of production company do I need to create in relation to the documentary I'm creating? In that case, I would do a company that's in alignment with what your values are and what the kind of films are that you make. So for example, there's a company I work with called Fluffy Films, which is literally commercial fluffy rom-coms. So make it in alignment with what you believe in.
Right. And they also have, if you go on Google and type in finishing funds, I'm not sure what'll come up, but I mean, they have companies that provide finishing funds for filmmakers. There was a company called Film Bond many years ago. I don't even know if they still exist, but that was one example. But they have companies that do offer finishing funds. So that, anyway, that's just one thought. And then the second question was, what type of production company do I need to create in relation to the documentary I'm creating?
Yes, that would be literally making it the company which is in alignment, the company in alignment with what your values are. So, you know, as I said before, there's a company called Fluffy Films that do literally films that are commercial, lightweight rom-coms. So make it in alignment with what you believe in and what kind of films you make that represent your beliefs is crucial. So having a company called Fluffy Films that do hardcore documentaries won't work. So make sure that it's very much like what you want to put out there in your work is very crucial. This all needs to be done obviously before you make the films. So start thinking now what you really want to put out there and what your message is.
Right. All right. Oh, so we have Roger's on here. Hello, Roger. How you doing? How do we get Rebekah to move to New York? My newspaper publisher has apartments in the heart of Greenwich Village. If Rebekah doesn't want to come to New York, I do have a question. What does Rebekah think of adding festival laurels to your poster? That is big. A lot of filmmakers, they love the laurels. I mean, it certainly helps with marketing, I assume. But Rebekah, what's your take on that?
Laurels are extremely important because it shows that the film has either won awards, nominations, and it's traveling and it's getting an audience. So absolutely very important. I wouldn't go to the point of putting like every single festival laurel, like having like thousands on there. I would keep it, you know, succinct, put all the key high-end festival laurels on there, you know, whether it be winner at X Festival, Fish Selection, Big Apple Film Festival, whatever's on there. Make sure that you put the ones that are really going to attract the right type of clientele to look at it and go take it more seriously, like, ooh, interesting, hot dogs, ooh, Slamdance, ooh, Big Apple, ooh, this obviously is going to be a pretty interesting film to watch. Let's give it a go. It gives them more trust in your product and your brand. So they are essential. Just don't go overboard. Put on the ones that really matter and will make a difference to those seeing the poster, who are your peers and your colleagues.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about trust and brand, I mean, I think that's definitely, you know, a big part of it. You know, obviously certain festivals have much more clout than others, but nonetheless, you know, I was just speaking to somebody about this the other day. You know, let's say if somebody, let's say is interested in watching a documentary, let's say about the American Revolution, for example, or something like that. And one of the, you know, there's let's say two documentaries that pop up on Amazon or whatever, and one of them doesn't have laurels and the other one has, let's say, 5 official selection laurels, and one of them says winner of this, or, you know, whatever. Even if it's not, let's say, a top tier festival, I think a person might be more inclined to be like, oh, this one seems to have gotten some recognition. So yeah, what you said about trust and brand, I think definitely makes a good point, you know. All right, so Alexandra, hello, Alexandra, says hello and thank you for these informative presentations. You're welcome. My film, The Lore of This Land, opened at the Mill Valley Film Festival. Cool. And then went on to numerous good small festivals during the COVID period. Now I want to find distribution. I found that online festivals to be beneficial only to the festival, not the filmmaker. What would you recommend doing now that I've won some awards and been on the so-called festival circuit for a year? So, Rebekah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well done for getting opening Mill Valley. That's a great festival. Obviously, as you probably know, it's Oscar level qualifying. Our film actually screened there as well during COVID, which was called Kings of Mulberry Street. So congratulations. Hopefully the filmmakers saw you there virtually. I'm sorry you've had a bit of a disappointing experience on the new festival landscape. But now you want to find distribution is great, because you've got great festivals, I imagine, alongside Mill Valley to present to distribution companies. Now, normally what I'd say would be to take it to the American film market, the European film market, EFM, which is the Berlinale Film Festival that takes place in a few weeks. I think it's about 2 weeks. You could take it there and then shop it around to sales agents who might want to see it. Now it's been finished, they have then something they can sell quickly to distribution companies. That could be a good thing. So there's one option, is to approach, as I said, the European film market, that's EFM, which is part of the Berlinale Film Festival. And then book meetings online, because it's virtual, obviously, with distribution companies who are there, but also many sales agents that could represent it to sell, and then find distribution for you. Second thing is you could do it by yourself and find sales agents to speak with on your own, not via EFM. But I recommend that you first of all go via the route of a company called the Hot Sauce for Film. I mentioned them earlier. Now they're based in Toronto, and you should check them out on Instagram, because it's a fantastic Instagram page. Lots of tips of film knowledge, distribution, sales, everything. It's all on there. And they really know their stuff, and I've worked with them and I trust them with my life. She'd give you very good advice with regards to where to begin and where to kind of search for this distribution, not a sales agent. So check out her. You can book an appointment with her for free and figure out, you know, what to do. And she would know exactly how to position your film to distribution companies now that you have Mill Valley and you have other festivals that are great laurels, you know, a solid festival run. So I'd recommend that as well. There is AFM, but that's like November. That's a massive market. But as the time.
When is Berlinale coming up?
Berlinale's coming up in about, I think it's next week. I think it's the first week of March. So yes, it'll be next week. So now's still the time to do it, booking appointments and stuff. But you must book appointments in advance at any film market, whether it be AFM, EFM, or Cannes, wherever you're going to go, because there's no, you can't just, you know, you can't just turn up and go, I want an appointment now. It has to be in advance because they have schedules online and in person. So that's your two options. But do check out the Hot Sauce for Film. I'll put it in the chat at the end. And they're on Instagram. But distribution-wise, they're really going to help you, I can assure you.
Right. So you're saying that the most beneficial thing about anything virtual, whether it's a film festival or a film market, is really the networking, meeting with people, interacting, talking about your project.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes, and also the thing about with film markets is that it is a business. So it is, you know, scheduled meetings. Right. Sometimes things happen that are quite spontaneous and fun sometimes there, but they are scheduled and they have an agenda to follow. So it's important to get in early so you're in there, because obviously people have got finished films now like you have, and to get them sold and seen. Yeah, it's called The Hot Sauce of Film. I'll put it in the chat, in the message to all panelists. The Hot Sauce for Film. She's based in Toronto, and very, very knowledgeable. She used to be a president herself, so she knows the industry inside.
Oh, the Hot Sauce for Film. Right. Gotcha. I see it.
That's right.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. All right. So markets, definitely networking, meeting with people. That should be the focus right now in the within the virtual setting. And obviously, I mean, you want to show your movie, but the virtual gives us an opportunity to really interact and network.
Yes, and I would say to people who ask me, how do I network at an online festival? Is it possible? It is possible. And the way that I recommend doing it is to actually see other people's films at the online festival. That way, say that you've got a short and you've got this block of other 10 shorts in your program, watch them all. Then when you have the Q&A with them, you're like, oh, you did that film, that was great, I loved it, and I love that film. And you start having it breaks the ice, it's a good conversation starter, and you'll find out when you see new talent you want to connect with, it could be the next project collaboration. So it's always important to get engaged with the festival, both the online world, in terms of social media, but also watching other films, and to also be yourself as well. If you're going in there expecting to find the next person to do that project with, whatever, it's not going to work. So really just be you and be proud of the film, and then watch and engage with others to start the conversation going. And you'll probably find there people will connect really well. It does happen. It's worked with my clients before. We all sat and watched these programs of genre shorts, and we're like, well, that was amazing. And they're all there doing the Q&A. So do show up and watch other people's films.
Right. Yeah, we had a couple of filmmakers some years ago. They had short films at our festival. They ended up talking afterwards, just chatting about their shorts and some of the other short films. They collaborated. They ended up making a feature film together a couple of years later, which ended up premiering at Woodstock, and it got some kind of distribution deal. The film came out.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you never know these things, how they can come about.
It's also having being focused with your goals. When I say to every filmmaker I work with, every time we begin, we always start with, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve in festival circuit with the film? And sometimes they say they don't know. So I think, well, is it networking? Is it sales? Is it exposure? Is it all of them? Let's really pinpoint which one it is, so we can then target which ones to attend and show up to virtually or in person, and also which ones will be best for you to achieve that end result distribution. So we plan it very strategically and very fine tuning to it, very focused.
Right. So, all right, we have Amir with us. Hey, Amir, how you doing? Amir said, although it was COVID, I managed to direct 2 feature films this year. Wow, very cool. I've started to introduce the first one to festivals. I plan to introduce the next one from next month. They are different. The first one is a psychological thriller. The second one is a supernatural thriller. They are completely different. But in terms of festival submissions, I heard it is not a good idea to submit both to one festival, as they will compete with each other. Any recommendations on this? Would you submit 2 different films to the same festival? They're different sort of genres.
Yeah, we've done that before, many clients, and it doesn't make any difference. It's all about if they've got the room that's going to appeal to their audience. So before doing that, think about who is the audience for both of these films. If they're the same, it might be a bit difficult, but then it depends. We've had a filmmaker that had 3 shorts that were all very different, and they got into some of the same festivals, showed them together. Some of them didn't. Some just showed one, some just showed a different one. So it varies. So I wouldn't worry about that. What I would do is really figure out, as I mentioned, about the audience. Who is the audience for these films, and which festivals have those audiences? And their previous programming can help you identify that, and then figure out where best to place them. So again, it's being very strategic and very streamlined and focused.
Right. And also in terms of distribution, like if a distributor's attending that festival, right, then maybe they'll, be looking for a certain type of genre or whatever. And even if, let's say, both films are in the festival, maybe both get selected. Maybe they'll want one certain platform.
Exactly. So it's important to obviously have that presence, have a great poster, have great marketing. When I do these Instagram tips and YouTube video tips every couple of days, and I always say to people, it's very important to have a striking poster that's designed professionally and not by Canva. And also a trailer is really important. These are all for both shorts and features, by the way, not just a feature. People think they're only one for a short. I'm like, yes, because it's still a proper film. It's still an essential film. So you must have those marketing materials in place like any other film would.
Right. So Felice is on. Hello, Felice. What kind of research could be done to determine if your project is a right fit for a festival or would increase the chances of selection? So I guess really it comes down to, is it worth submitting to a festival if you blindly, like, is there a way to know beforehand if this makes sense for your particular project before you go ahead and actually
Yes.
spend the money and submit the film?
Yes, absolutely. Always have a strategy. So before doing any submissions, think about, what you want to achieve, what your budgets are, and also get objective feedback from people like me who do this all the time on the film, and knowing where best to place it and position it and which festival will be going to be best for it. Obviously, filmmakers have made films, can make films for years, and it's hard to see it objectively when you spend so much effort and time and money into it. So obviously someone like myself who hasn't been involved in the process since day one and see a different point of view from how festivals will respond to it. To do research by yourself, the best thing to do would be to look at their websites and also on Film Freeway as well, in the About section, and it tells you what they're actually looking for. And then you'll know exactly then what kind of fit it's going to be. But also you need to know what your film is too. So if you want to be like, right, well, I'm going to send this to Slamdance, it'd be like, okay, but is it a film that Slamdance want? So think about what kind of film you've made first, and then look at their previous programming. If they have films like yours of your quality, then great. But it really boils down to your film is a key thing here. You've got to make sure that it's got a really striking, edgy vision, takes a risk. You don't hold back. It's not safe. It's not commercial. It's not predictable by the numbers. It's not got boring dialogue. These are things that festivals don't want to program. So they want to see stuff that is really, sharp, really cutting edge vision here, doesn't really take a risk. Look at Skin, the film that won the Oscar the other year, a couple of years ago, Skin. My God, how powerful that is. That's what they want to see, that really pushes the boundaries and will not, keep things, safe and secure. Looking for that aggressive vision. I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to take an edge, a risk, and really show what I can do. That's what those festivals want. If your film is a commercial by the numbers film, it won't be for festivals. So you really got to figure out your film first and then look at what they want. So that part comes first. Second part is research.
Right. Yeah, I was also going to say, to look at some of the biographies of the filmmakers who are in certain festivals. There are certain festivals that accept a lot of alumni films, people who have been in it before. So if you've never been in that festival, your chances, it may be more challenging to get in. There are also certain festivals, and this goes for some of the larger ones that you're probably more familiar with, but there are certain festivals, when I look at their program, a large percentage of their slate already has distribution in place, and they tend to be higher profile projects. So, sometimes looking at the bios of the filmmakers and looking at the films on IMDb, if you see that a large percentage of the films already have a distributor and you don't, you're a smaller film that maybe doesn't have a distributor, that your chances may be more, maybe more difficult. So yeah, I would, and then obviously the niche thing, you obviously know if, let's say, you have a horror film, that a comedy festival maybe not your way to go unless it's a comedy horror.
Exactly. Good point. I agree with that. It's a good thing about the bios is very interesting too. I see there is actually 2 questions coming up my side of this chat. I just answer these as well. I know you've got some as well coming your side.
Yeah. Well, let's go. Let me go over to the chat here. So, StoneStreet Studios, here in New York. Hello. The question is, have you been to any of the markets? Can you walk us through the experience of Berlinale or AFM? AFM, for those who don't know, is the American Film Market, which usually takes place in Santa Monica. How do you navigate appointments in advance? And what do you do literally moment to moment? For those who haven't gone, it's a big black hole. Maybe you can paint us a personal picture. What's a film market like in person? I guess in person, normal way it would happen.
Oh, I love film markets. I go there quite a lot because some of our clients are looking for distribution. So we're there having chats with sales agents. So the way to do it is to do your research first and figuring out who you want to connect with and why. So you buy your badge in advance, and it doesn't cost that much when you do it quite, far ahead in advance, for like €100 for Berlinale. And then you'll get updates of access to the database of who's going to be there, which buyers, etc. So do your research and put your top 10 list of sales agents who you want to connect with to help sell your film, and think about whether they'd be a good fit. So let's go back to a horror. Say you have a horror film, then it's best to go with a sales agent that specializes in the genre. There's a company in the UK called Evolutionary Films, and they do a lot of horror, and they do low budget horror because they can sell it for piecemeal kind of prices that be, you know, small deals around the world to make a good return investment. They haven't got to have massive stars in. So that's a good company you could then connect with and know and talk about the films you've got and how they're easy to sell. But then it's all about the research again. So it's knowing what product you've got, who's going to want it. So really think about how strong the film is and who could potentially sell it. So it's researching for a bit about sales companies, for one thing. I do that with our clients. So when I went back in person, I'd be there to speak with festival programmers about our films and also with sales agents. And I'd also recommend that you attend as many networking events as possible. They have like these 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. soirees, or, you know, or networking events where you can meet loads of good people, and you'll find then other people that could be quite useful for getting the film sold, or generally your film career. You know, you're going to make good connections that know people. It's going to be really fun. Go to those in all the evenings and the parties, because they really will help bond with people you've just met, and also to get more outreach. And day by day, it's quite exhausting. It's a full-on day. Like I actually, the one year I went to Berlin, I had proper bad flu, not coronavirus, obviously. This was like it was COVID something, not COVID-19, but it was horrendous, and I had to get through the whole, like, I couldn't let my clients down, so I just pushed myself through it. And I remember feeling ill when I got there, and literally the whole day is non-stop. You don't have any time to do any like paperwork. It's pretty much full on. So when you get up, it's meetings, then you've got lunch meetings, then there'll be meetings in the afternoon. Then from 5 o'clock onwards, there won't be any meetings. It'll all be networking, parties, dinners, all that kind of thing. And then you'll find you might get back to some of those spontaneously when you're there, but it might be in advance. But either way, you'll just be like on it non-stop. It'll be like 16-hour days. And with flu, that's not good. That was something I never forgot. I remember doing that 4 days. I don't know how I managed to survive it. When I got back home, I was in bed for a week. But it is full on. But it's a great buzz, you know, because it's a great energy. So it's not, feels like work. It's just long days, and it feels great because you're in the right community, like-minded people. And the same goes for AFM. It's the same similar thing. And any film market, Cannes is more exhausting. Cannes is like 20-hour days. Back when Cannes a lot different now. It used to be very busy. It's not as busy now as it used to be. But it's still, you know, it's still work to do there.
And also, Lisa had asked. I'm sorry. You know what, before we get to that, let me go back to the. We had a question from Nora about Film Freeway. Nora uploaded her new film to Film Freeway, and she's getting the invitations from festivals offering, 50% discounts to apply and things like that. So she just wants to know, she's getting a lot of these invitations. Are the festivals themselves just sort of blindly just inviting everyone, or are they actually researching the specific films to see if it's the right fit for their particular festival?
No, that is just a blanket email to thousands of people. These festivals are desperate for submissions, and they'll just do anything to give you, discounts to get more submissions in. It could be totally wrong fit, as you just said. Yes. So no, ignore that. I would not advise to sign up for any like emails from Film Freeway about, festivals that might want to see your film and get discount, because it doesn't help you, because there's no strategy. These festivals are not going to look at the film and go, oh, right, it's a film that's about horror. We're environmentally friendly festival about animals, so we'll ask them to submit, so there's no research. It's just press the button and send loads, and you'll get loads of emails. So I would not pay any money to get any emails come in from Film Freeway with discounts. It really wouldn't help you. What you need before submitting is a streamline and focus strategy, that the right festivals for your film, that is all done by you and by me as our day job. It's what I do for you, not by Film Freeway. Film Freeway there is a wonderful platform. I love Film Freeway to submit films to festivals. It's great. But there's no one obviously on there giving strategy advice, because that's not what it is, and they're not doing the research festivals before. They're just, blanket, press the button. There's no one doing that. So I would really not engage with that and just do your own submissions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you get the email. I mean, you're going to get those emails, of course, inviting the films. Just if it looks like a good festival for you, a good fit for you, then yeah, check it out. If it's not for you, then you move on. I think that's, that's probably the best move. And let's see, one more here in the chat box. Robin asked, in the last 4 months, my film on Shakespeare has won 131 awards. Wow. 89, which are now on IMDb. We have been meticulous about only allowing passcode protected screenings. We have 130 festival competitions pending. If we are able to somehow manage to get on Amazon Prime, will it be possible to later be accepted for distribution to the education market? So you're already on Prime. Now let's say they want to try to get into the educational market. There's those educational distributors. Can they still do that?
I'd say potentially, yes. You have to look at the contract. If it's an exclusive contract to Amazon, then it'd be difficult, but you could always pull it. So first of all, great news with film.
They're not on Prime yet, but let's
not on Prime yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So great news about the awards, and you're doing the right thing by having password protected screenings. It's very, very, very important. So to get on Amazon Prime, yes, you could do that yourself. You wouldn't need a Southern to do that. And you could then put it onto the platform's educational market. But to be honest, that's quite a niche market. So you need to find the right ones, education market. If you've got contacts already, then great. If you haven't, I would potentially look for them in film markets, but also speaking to people that work in that area that could maybe put you in touch with the right people to be the right platform to host it on. But I think Amazon Prime is going to be easy to get set onto. It won't be difficult. I mean, it would be hard for something like, a pornography film probably, but I'm sure it's not, obviously. So I think that wouldn't be an issue. But maybe try first the education market and really home in on your niche to see what can come from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see, I just wanted, okay. Again, from StoneStreet regarding the markets, the film markets, do people buy badges, go and not get appointments? What is the ratio generally in your mind or to your knowledge of numbers of filmmakers or reps for films to sales agents and or distributors? So yeah, I mean, can you buy a badge and maybe it could be like you don't even get appointments? Is that possible? And also, are a lot of distribution deals made there? Are people able to get sales agents?
If you book your badge in advance and pre-plan your meetings in advance, you'd be fine. You'll find that spontaneous things do happen whilst you're there. Like you might get a last minute meeting. They do happen sometimes, but to be very focused on what you want, it's important to get those key meetings in place first to see then what can come from them. The ratio is pretty much filmmakers or reps of film sales is quite high, but it's more a case of doing the research properly. So when we do research, we'll just look at, what kind of films those sellers previously sell, and if they have stars and if they need something in it, and then we kind of know what they want. And sometimes they say to us, it's not for us, but it could be for our colleague, and then the colleague wants it. So it's like a snowball technique. So no, it's high, it's not low. It gets more difficult when you go to market with a film development that's a little bit too early in development. It's at script stage, there's no package, there's no stars attached. That's really not enough. Only go to film market with a film development that is pretty developed and is solid and has pretty much good to go. It just needs the final bits of funding and needs sales estimates to really help get the final piece of the puzzle.
All right. Just keep in mind that film markets are a lot more expensive than a film festival. You get a booth and even a screening slot, I think often costs thousands. It could be, it's much more expensive than a film festival. Well, I mean, tremendously valuable. I mean, the big ones like Berlinale, AFM, you have all the distributors go, and it's a big thing. Lastly, Lisa asked, what's the standard size of a movie poster?
Oh, standard size. Let me think about the size.
It's like 24 by 36.
Yeah, and also that sounds about right. And make sure that you have that it's in portrait. Not really need landscape. Portrait's the key one. So obviously this way, and also have available a JPEG format. That's going to be widely used more so than a PNG or PDF. JPEG is a crucial one. And always make sure that when you create your Film Freeway account for the film, that you do put on it your poster and your trailer and your stills, not behind the scenes, but stills from the film or screenshots.
Right. All right. And so let me ask you, I know a lot of filmmakers, we had the first question from Denny earlier. I'm sure a lot of filmmakers would like to know if they want to keep in touch with you, ask some more questions or tell you about their projects, and just looking for maybe additional advice or just feedback on their projects regarding film festivals or distribution. What's the best way to contact you? By email, through your website?
Best way is going to probably be Instagram. So DM me, because then I can go from there, and then what the best route will be. So I'll put it in both chats, my Instagram.
Okay, so put it in the chat.
So there's one chat, and also in the other chat as well. I've got two. Type answer here as well at Rebekah Film. Yeah, and I will definitely respond because I have my team doing that. So we'll definitely get back to you.
Okay. So it's wait, is there, okay, at here we go, at Rebekah Film Doctor, right? Okay, so that's your Instagram. So the best thing to do is to DM you through, is this going through? Oh wait, hold on. This is not, it says, Nora said it's not actually going through. Let me do, hold on. Hold on a second. Okay. There, now it should be to everyone. See it? Yeah, all panelists and attendees. Yeah. Okay.
And you will see. Yeah.
There
Oh,
we go.
thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So the best thing to do, Instagram, and then they can contact you and just say, you know, we met you on the Big Apple conference regarding film festival strategies. This is what my film is. This is what it's about. Do you have any thoughts or feedback on this? And then you'll get back to them, and then you can sort of take it from there.
We can take it from there, exactly. So we get in touch on Insta, then we can keep on touch on there, and then we can move it to email if need be. But yeah, that'd be great. And I will respond to them all that come into the DM, of course, and do follow. And also you'll find on Instagram, I also do a lot of videos on there, my YouTube channel with tips to help you as well. So keep following me there, but do get in touch and I'll definitely get back to you.
All right, cool. All right, thank you so much. Our next panel is going to be in about 15 minutes at noon. That is with Alyssa Rallo Bennett, who is the co-founder of StoneStreet Studios. She's also a filmmaker and producer. Her credits include films like The Pack, which screened at Tribeca Film Festival with Elizabeth Moss, Rain Without Thunder with Jeff Daniels, and Rerun, which stars Christopher Lloyd, which actually premiered at the Woodstock Film Festival, had its New York City premiere at Big Apple, and is now in distribution. She's had projects released through Orion Pictures and Warner and Flix. And so she'll talk about her festival experience as well, and distribution experiences. And we will see Alyssa here in just about 15 minutes. So we'll see you at noon. And thank you all. And thank you, Rebekah. And thank you everyone for being here. And we'll see you again in 15 minutes. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. Again, this is Jonathan Lipp from the Big Apple Film Festival. So thank you for joining our conversation today on film festival strategies. And we have with us now as our next guest, we have Alyssa Rallo Bennett, who is the co-founder of StoneStreet Studios, as well as a filmmaker and producer. She's developed various feature films, including Rerun, which stars Christopher Lloyd. Rerun had its world premiere at the Woodstock Film Festival, went on to screen New York City premiere at the Big Apple Film Festival, now available on Apple TV and iTunes. She also directed Rain Without Thunder with Jeff Daniels and Linda Hunt, as well as The Pack, which screened at the Tribeca Film Festival with Lucy Arnaz, Elizabeth Moss, and Zach Galligan. She's had films released by Orion Classics. She has had films released by Warner Brothers. She has attended numerous top-tier festivals with her films, including Berlin, Toronto. But I'm going to now bring Alyssa on, and she will talk a bit more about her background. And Alyssa, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
All right, great to see you. And Alyssa also, I believe, has some other guests as well. Is that right? There's some other.
Oh no. They just wanted to listen. Later,
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So Alyssa, great to see you. I gave a little background there, but if you want to just talk a little bit about yourself and your background with StoneStreet, and then your experience as a filmmaker, attending festivals, and then into the world of distribution.
Wow. Well, first of all, I listened to your first guest, and that was really wonderful and interesting. I just wanted to not repeat things, and you know what I'm saying, like not cover things that she did. Yeah, I mean, I'm first and foremost a filmmaker, but StoneStreet Studios this is our 30th year. We're a really unique film studio in that we're in Chelsea, Manhattan. We make lots and lots and lots of films, short, medium, and long feature length films. And we have a very unique program, which is like a residency for NYU Tisch drama, where actors come in, are immersed in our film studio to learn about filmmaking, where they are in the whole picture of filmmaking. And so we've kind of come to produce as a film studio for the best and upper level actors some fantastic films. So we do a lot of short films, you know, with and for them. And a lot of those short films do go to film festivals. And so that's been sort of a whole thing. And then we also produce feature films, or we partner and produce feature films with investors or other platforms. We've gotten into doing series, and we also have, we're in development right now for a network series.
Cool. So in terms of your experience with festivals, let's take Rerun, for example. I believe the world premiere was Woodstock. Was that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the world. Okay. So like when in making your decision for a world premiere, I mean, you have Christopher Lloyd as the star of the film. I mean, clearly, you have the star power, you have a great film. There's a lot of festivals going to be interested. How did you go about making your choice for your world premiere?
Well, we submitted to a lot of different festivals. At the time we were ready. So, you know, there's these different windows that are good to get to know, that sort of you can start with Sundance and kind of like work your way around. But, you know, sometimes if you don't get into Sundance, or you don't make Sundance's deadline when you're really ready, you don't want to wait a whole year to go through festival circuit and get your film out there, especially if you have a star attached to it. Some people skip the festival circuit, but I mean, I'm a big believer in festivals because it does help you learn about your film. It does help you learn who your audience is. I mean, with The Pack, my first film after my first festival, well, we got into Tribeca, and we turned Tribeca down. It was a little different time, and we didn't know. Actually, my co-producer and I, like, we just thought, well, this is just the beginning. They asked us to screen out of competition, and we didn't understand what that was or what that meant. So I think this is actually a really valuable festival thing. Screening out of competition now, in retrospect, would have been a fantastic thing. It probably would have helped us with a TV deal sooner. And so by skipping over Tribeca and going to other festivals, it took a lot longer for us to get traction with the film. But, you know, it really, you know, again, it's just, you decide based on what offers you get when, you know. And we have a house in Woodstock. We love Woodstock. We're in Woodstock often. It's kind of like a really nice community, and it's a wonderful film festival. And we were past, I guess, the other festivals, and they really wanted to highlight us, and they also wanted to make us like the closing film for features. So we thought that was really wonderful. They spotlighted me as a female filmmaker. We were up for a Maverick Award, which is out of a lot of films. You know, that's also really nice. So, and then we met you up there, right. And that was really wonderful to get offered to have the New York City premiere with Big Apple, which was really, really nice. I mean, you have such a nice venue, and that too was a wonderful. But Christopher Lloyd only wanted to do a couple of festivals. Yeah. And so we didn't know how many exactly he would do. So that's also something that's really important to know. When you're producing, you make a contract with a star or someone who has, you know, some pull, is exactly what they'll do, how many festivals they might do, or how they're going to support the film. And he's been good. I mean, he came to that festival, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
And he's also doing some digital, shout outs, which is really, really nice. He's a really good guy.
Right. So, and let me just, if anybody has any questions for Alyssa, feel free to put it into the chat box, or the Q&A box rather. Any questions regarding festivals, distribution, or any questions in general. If you want to tell us about your project, feel free to put in the Q&A box. So I mentioned some names before of some star power that you've had in your films, like for example, The Pack, right? You've got Elizabeth Moss in there, Christopher Lloyd, like you just mentioned with Rerun, you've had Jeff Daniels. Does that help in terms of film festival entries? Does that sort of, should filmmakers be focused on star power in order to get into those festivals?
I mean, I think things are always changing, and it's like, I think some films, like, they're the star. The film is the star. And even though I have Lucy Arnaz and Elizabeth Moss in the pack, which has been really, really helpful. The film deals with the issue of personal responsibility and secondhand smoke. And I think that is it's a very specific niche film. And so I think that sometimes that's all you need. Initially, I had a lot of stars attached. And I guess in the end, and they did attach, but when we were working on the budget and when we finally got rolling with the money, only a few stars were available, and that's who we went with. But I don't think you need that many stars, but it's helpful to have one star, even if they're just a cameo.
Right.
Because that can really help distributors. It can help audiences kind of go, oh, wow, just like that extra little thing. It helps festivals like stars too. Everybody does,
How do you go about attaching like a known actor? How do you go about getting the star? I mean, they must get offers, I imagine, all the time through their agencies and reps and things like that. How do you go about that process?
It's really, I think people have to just use imagination and really know what their film is about and what the deeper issues are, because I think actors respond to great roles, and they respond to films with meaning. And if you really understand the meaning beneath your film and can communicate that passion through, I think, as your first guest said, a really good one sheet, and you can, verbally communicate that, that has a lot of weight. All the protectors, meaning the agents and the casting directors that will help your project, they generally won't go to their actors without an offer. So if you don't have all your money, or if you aren't making an offer, then that's where the creativity really comes in. How to communicate to somebody that you have some of your money, or what parts of the pies you have, and what you want from them and why. I mean, it's really, and I started with Paul Sorvino for the pack because I knew he was into the issue of secondhand smoke, and he was the first person to sign on. So, and I'd gone after a few different people, but he was the person. And once I had him, the door opened for quite a few other people, because I had the recognition of Paul Sorvino and the fact that he worked on the script with me for quite some time. So I think that's helpful. But Christopher Lloyd happened very differently. And that's why I think every film is a different story or a different situation. We made the inner body of the film based, I think, on a really good script, and that's really important. So when you have a really good script, and we made the part of the film that's considered for rerun, that's considered the past, we had something to show, but ultimately it was that. And then the idea that Christopher Lloyd was going to be in the future as the older person. It's a very, it's kind of a modern twist on It's a Wonderful Life. And he loved the script. So we did make an offer to him. So we had the money for it, and we made an offer. And, it wasn't a kind of offer that that Warner Brothers would make, but it was an independent film offer, and he accepted. So
yeah,
yeah.
All right. So yeah, again, if anybody questions, just put it right into the Q&A box. We'll start with TJ. TJ says, "What are the pieces of the pie? In other words, is there an order in which to properly secure financing?"
Well, you have assets. A script, who the director is, and if you know who your audience is, if you have any money already, and if you have some star power. I mean, I don't know if those are like definitive 5, but those are some pretty important things. And they're all really important. Other people on your team, you sort of like build a team. That's part of the pie too. So I could bring someone aboard who I know who will be really helpful and give some security to investors. I can put them as executive producers on my film. And if they really believe in either me as a director, me as a producer, the script, the project, and they become an executive producer, that can have a lot of weight. That's why when you see Steven Spielberg on a film as the executive producer, people will look and give money. He may not be giving any money, but he's giving that. And that's sort of like the piece of, and he probably is going to get some back end for giving his name, which becomes a piece of the pie. Does that answer the question?
Right. And what about in terms of like how you actually go about financing? I mean, would you say like nowadays crowdfunding is probably the best way to go, or private investors, or I guess just or individual project basis, I suppose?
Well, some people do really well with crowdfunding. I've never done well with crowdfunding. I've only tried it because I thought I should occasionally, but it really depends on who you are and where you are in your career too. So if you're just starting out and you're young, crowdfunding is great because you can often get the seed money and all the people who will invest money, who aren't really film investors per se, but can really add up. But some people have really good luck with crowdfunding when they hit a nerve about something or an issue and get beyond their own sort of tight circle. The way we've really raised money often is we have, our film studio has various sources of income that we then have built our film studio up. So we have pretty much everything we need to make films. So we have all the equipment, we have all the people, we have all post-production, we have everything. So we can just make our films and then, go out to distribution. We like to be able to partner with people. So that's one way. It's just sort of, now everybody owns an iPhone too. I mean, honestly, the quality of what you can shoot on an iPhone is incredible. But most people know people with cameras, and most people know how to get their hands on things. So you can make pretty good quality stuff if you have a really good script and you've taken the time and the care to really think about and make it worth everybody's time, from the people you're working with to the audience.
When you have name talent, like the people you've mentioned, attached to your film, do you start getting offers from distributors right away at festivals or even before festivals? Does that start happening immediately once the word is out?
It really depends. I mean, if you're getting awards and things like that, but we have a couple of reps that we work with. And so they take our films, very much like the first conversation. I've personally never been to a market. And so I actually asked questions about really, what is a market like? We have reps that go to markets I've always been intrigued to go myself.
Yeah.
I've never had the time to do it, but we have reps that go to markets for us, and then they try to make the best deals, for the films, either by territory or, depending on who they're meeting with and what their contacts are.
Are the reps you use sales agents? Is that who you use, or a producer's rep, or are they one and the same?
We work with a couple of different reps, but they are, one of them is a sales agent, one of them isn't. So it just depends,
Gotcha.
They either bring it to the people, who are going to then pay us directly, they're sales agents, or they bring us to people as a middle person who then does that. And that sort of starts to cut away at your pie a bit. But, if that's just we have long-term relationships, and it makes it easy for us. Yeah.
Right. Fran has a question regarding this in the chat box. Fran asked, how do they find the right sales agent for a project? How do you find the right sales agent?
You know, there's really just a few really good sales agents here in the US that do independent films, but I don't know, there's probably like, but a growing number, because there really is a market and people are buying films, especially now. People are buying films, you know, because there's a sort of stop on production. So I think people are having good luck, you know, selling their films during this COVID time. So it's a people business, like, you know, it's about meeting people. So we have a rep who, I don't know, she knows everything about us. She knows our work. And a rep means a representative of you, your film, or your films. So she represents StoneStreet, our rep. She represents our films and us as filmmakers. And she's really believes in us. So I think that the thing is finding people who are your first reps, who really believe in you and who are not you. I think that's a really good thing. It took me a long time to learn that, actually, because it's easy for me, like my film. But when you talk about my film, and that's why people like festivals, or when other people talk about my film, it's once removed from me. Everybody knows that the filmmakers already like killed themselves over their film, and it's hard to see, you know, the flaws in one's own children, you know. So it's like when somebody else says it's wonderful, that's why having a rep where it's not personal, it's business, is really, and she's been great. She's the person who brought us to the people who are our sales reps. She's the person who opens doors for us. So I think finding somebody, like, even if you're in school or you're young, and, you know, find that person who's like not a filmmaker, but wants to be involved and is in marketing, and bring people to your table and build your own little, you know, that's how we kind of built our own little, you know, empire. I was like, it's true. It's like we have our own little thing going and we just keep growing it, you know. It seems to work. Yeah.
There was a question in the Q&A box and the chat box that are actually pretty similar. Nora and TJ have a similar question. How do you find a rep? Nora said, can you give us the name of your rep? Oh, can you give us the name of your rep if it is not a secret?
No, can't. She would kill me.
Okay.
She would not. No, she would not want me to. And she only reps. She reps a few, you know, different companies, and she doesn't rep standalone films. She reps as a film studio because we have a lot of films and we have a pipeline. But that's just her, and that's just us. I really, really recommend, and this is what I, you know, like when we have a residency program in our studio, that whether it's actors or filmmakers, it's like this again took me so long to get through my head, which is like, it's understanding how things can work, but it is totally making things your own way, and in spite of, or along with, or in concert with what is. You know, being a real leader for yourself, as a leader for your film and a leader in the industry, is really, really important. You know, you probably have better ideas and know people that really believe in you. They should be your first rep. That's your rep, you know. If, again, like if you're in school, you know, put out a query for somebody to work on your distribution team who's in the business school, who wants to work on something creative. Go find someone in public speaking. Like, just like, I think that's when you have to think outside of the box and find the rep is probably sitting next to you, you know?
Right.
And that is, people at StoneStreet who have been working with us, and kind of, we bring up a lot of young up and coming colleagues. They do that all the time. And I have to say, they are my equal. They have become our colleagues, and they do what we do. And that's the way to do it, you know? And that's the way I think.
Right. You know, let me just go to in the Q&A box. There's a question also about directories for reps. Do you know if there's a directory to find reps or sales agents or anything like that?
I actually don't know the answer to that. I think that you can Google film reps and you'll probably get, or like who are the independent distributors like Submarine and Independent. It's called Andrew, I forgot his last name, but he has a company called Independent something, and they're very good. But there's definitely open doors for new films, because that's why festivals are so good. It is one of the places where you get in the door with new films, because festivals are looking for new stories and unheard stories. I mean, that's been the initiative with Sundance. It's been the initiative for Tribeca, Untold Stories. And I go to see a lot of the films too at some of those festivals. And it really is interesting. Sometimes a film will have such a great story and it's like the filmmaking is not that great, but the story is so good and they got in and they got distributed because of the passion of the story. So I think, you could probably Google and start to find reps. But again, I really think that, and you could maybe meet reps at markets as well.
Right.
You could go to a market if there's one that's convenient. I wouldn't put a lot of money into like going far to a market, but to a local market, you might actually meet people, or that would be a good way to see who reps are, by looking at who the reps that have gone to or are going to markets.
Yeah, right. Yeah, someone who was on one of our conferences recently mentioned if you become a member of IMDb Pro and you look up films perhaps that are similar to yours, genre-wise or whatever, very often they have the sales agent listed. And then you can contact them and say, hey, I saw you were the rep on this horror movie. Well, I have a horror movie also. And, maybe you'd be interested, or that you were a rep on this documentary and I made a similar documentary on a similar topic or something like that. That's one way. And then I know a lot of festivals don't do this, but Sundance usually in their program guide, they usually have the sales reps or whoever, the publicist or whoever it might be, listed on there. So if you have a similar genre film to something that's just screened at Sundance, you go on to their program guide, you should see the name of the rep, you can contact them. That's just the thought.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. I have a question for you regarding, hold on one second here. Regarding regarding short films. I wanted to ask you about short films. So StoneStreet creates many short films. You have been, over many years creating short films. Do you find that festivals are the best place to go with a short film, or something like YouTube? What do you what's the best movie thing for people who have shorts?
If you have a really good short, it's a calling card, and it is worth it to try to get it into festivals. I think that's a good way to go. If you have a short that seems like it might go viral and you don't want to wait, this is the sort of thing you have to weigh, then that might be the right route to go. So I'll give you an example. So one of our people that was in our residency decided to just, do what we do, which is make his own stuff. And he made some short pieces that were kind of related based on him being a different guy and all the Tinder. And they came out really well. I think one of them, the first one, or maybe one of them, he just happened to play a Goldman Sachs guy going on a Tinder date, and it just went viral. And so he did not go to festivals because he was making it kind of like as a little mini short series. And because it went viral, his phone started ringing. He got an agent as an actor, which was part of his, and then I think Burlstein Gray signed him to make deals. And all of a sudden he's flying all over to pitch his next project, which he wasn't even prepared for. So it was like, okay. So he started having meetings and doing pitch meetings in California, but it was like, it's pretty cool. And he got to write more, and that happened from a YouTube viral.
Wow.
So that was the right thing for him, you know.
Right. So I guess it really depends on what, I guess, individual basis. And you have another short who could end up winning an award at a festival, and then that's the way that happens. And somebody else could be on Vimeo. I guess it all depends, right?
Or you could Instagram. So, because I think if you can show that you have an audience, that's what matters. Whether your audience is on Facebook, whether your audience is on Instagram, or, you know, Snapchat or whatever. I guess they're gone now, right? No, Snapchat's still going, because I'm a little out of the loop on that.
Yeah.
But or, you know, TikTok. I think that that's a great platform. You know, if you can make a mini film and have a huge audience, I think you can definitely leverage that. That's a great way to go.
Right, right. You had mentioned before, Tribeca Film Festival has Untold Stories. For any filmmakers on here that might be interested in maybe trying to enter something like that, are you able to explain a little bit what the Untold Stories part of Tribeca is? What they do in that section?
So, you know, every festival has its own mission and its own initiative, and they then talk to their programmers about that, and their programmers are who watches film. So, and this has happened, you know, and you can't second guess the market. You have to make the films that you want to make. But I think that they've been very much looking to spotlight films of diversity and stories that they haven't heard before, which of course dovetails and includes increasing diversity in their festival, so that all their filmmakers aren't of the same color. They're telling stories that have not been told, or people who, and now because, you know, everybody can make a film, they're really trying to reach everywhere to see, you know, a realer global type of film. And I think they're doing that, you know, and if you look at, you just look at what they're programming, that's the Untold Story this year, you know? Yeah.
Right. What are your thoughts on niche festivals, like a horror festival, or maybe a specifically, let's say a women's filmmaker festival, or do you think that is not only a good route, but perhaps a better route maybe for certain films? I was just wondering your thoughts on that.
I think niche festivals are great, because it's obviously, you know, if the niche festival has a little bit of a you know, a history, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, you know, just the fact that you might get into it is helpful. And second, if you get any awards there, it helps your film rise to the top of that particular genre, which is very, very helpful. It's like you already, you know, we know who your audience is, and the audience knows where to go. And that's just helpful for distributors. It's helpful everywhere, whether you're distributing yourself on Amazon or YouTube or wherever you're distributing, or however it is you're trying to monetize your film. The niche itself is very helpful. Yeah. Right.
So we have Andy on. Andy has a question. He says, you mentioned diversity, going back to when we were talking about the Untold Stories of Tribeca. Andy says, I'm a Native American SAG-AFTRA actor. I'm also a writer, producer, director. I incorporated Native Warrior Productions, Incorporated, to create acting opportunities for myself. So we created a production company to create his own acting opportunities. I wrote, produced, and directed and starred in an 18-minute short fictional film completed during the pandemic titled The Treaty of COVID-19 that has already won several festivals worldwide. I missed the deadline for Sundance. So many film and streaming companies have committed tremendous resources to diversity and inclusion, and I'm trying to take advantage of those opportunities, but I'm having such difficulty connecting with any of them to let them know that I am what they are looking for, even with film festival success. Any ideas to help me? Which I guess is great for you, because you StoneStreet as well as also an acting studio. So any thoughts on that?
Well, I have a question for you. Like, how many queries, like, what do you do? Like, when you say you have difficulty, how how do you reach out? What do you do? Do you send emails? Do you follow up with your emails? And do you go to festivals? Do you talk to people? It's a real people thing. So you could find a festival and go to it, even if you are not in it, and end up meeting people that you will then want to work with. That's the nice thing about festivals. And I mean, obviously right now we're not going to film festivals, but I think as you heard from the first guest, we actually have a wider reach in some of these Q&As and things that happen. So you might get to bump up against people, but you know, the festivals will open again, and they will open soon. You also can create events. You know, you might decide, I am doing a lot. So I think sometimes we think we're doing a lot, but we're not really doing the thing that gets us to meet the person. So meeting 10 people is better than 100 emails sometimes. But, you know, maybe you're only sending 15 emails out and thinking you're going to get a response, and you have to follow up, and you have to do a lot of things, and you have to chat on the phone, and you meet the assistant, and you just let them know it's a tiny bit about you. And then they feel like, oh, I got to tell my boss about, you know, there's this guy and I talked to him and he seems really cool and he's this and he's got this story, and, you know, maybe we should. And that's how actually things happen. But you can also create events too. And sometimes it's more worth your time, because then you're at the center of your event, then all the energy that it takes to sort of like reach out to things that are kind of a little bit like playing the lottery sometimes, it feels like. So you might want to think about that as well. But you're certainly welcome to connect with StoneStreet. There's a lot of different ways, and because it is a community, and it is a growing community, and people are quite successful coming in and out of it, and people seem to come back to kind of give back once they do well too, and kind of like reignite. It's kind of nice. Like, it's a little bit of a dream come true for me, in that it's like a developing family, but it's not static. It's just very, you know, like that. And I think you're welcome to connect with us too, because you can, there's lots of different opportunities.
Yeah, and it's cool, you know, at StoneStreet, because you're working in the industry while learning at the same time. They're not necessarily students; they're more colleagues.
That's
Which is
how we look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really, really awesome. And let's see. Yeah, Andy said he'll get in touch with you after the meeting. Lisa asked, "Oh, are these webinars recorded, or will they be sent via email?" Yes, they are recorded, and yeah, we'll send you a copy via email. There are a number of streaming platforms now that we're all familiar with, of course. Of course, you know, there's Netflix and there's Amazon and Hulu, etc. But you have some projects now on Flixa, I believe it's called. Is that right? So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about Flixa, like what they are and how they work, and how it could be beneficial to new emerging independent filmmakers.
Well, it's a platform for women and I think non-binary filmmakers. So right off the bat, that's what their platform is. And I guess they found us, and they reached out to us right away in the very beginning, and then just licensed a lot of our content. And I think they're doing pretty well. I have to say, we actually got paid, which is that's another thing. Sometimes even when you have a rep or a distributor, when your content is all over the world, in like Germany or other markets, it's all based on, you know, whether your rep or your sales agent actually sells it to someone who will pay them, and then they pay you. And we've had experiences where we haven't seen much money, you know, in prior, you know, so you have to just really find out who does pay. And I was very pleased that they pay. And I think they're wonderful, and I like their layout. I think they, you know, I think you can just submit to them. Although I know, because as they're growing, there are aggregators as well as reps who go to them with many filmmakers. So if you can't reach them directly, which is possible because like we were a film studio. If you're a standalone filmmaker, you might want to go to a source or someone who's representing a group of films, and then you may reach them successfully that way.
And in in terms of recouping costs and even profiting from the monetary standpoint, you've had films on numerous platforms like Apple TV and Flixa, and do you prefer the AVOD model, which is advertising revenue, or the SVOD model, subscription based, or TVOD, transactional, where people have to pay per rent, per download, or to purchase it? Do you find that one is more monetarily beneficial over another?
Well, I can only speak from my own personal experience. So for example, the PAC was, we were with FilmRise, which is a pretty big, hot, they had the film all over the place and we hardly saw any money.
Okay.
So, and it's just, I vowed not to do that again, like to know more directly, like even if it's less money, to know more directly or to be more directly connected, like with our rep who has consistently made deals that paid. Because being part of FilmRise, which was a aggregator, and then they took a lot of films and they'd make a deal over with a subscription base. Like, how do you figure out? I mean, I know there's algorithms for it, but how do you figure out exactly how much that one film makes in that subscription and then goes back to the middle person, be it FilmRise or whoever else? I don't know. It seems very heavy for other people making profits on your baby. And that was my experience. I think trying to get your film directly on Amazon or directly, you have to do the advertising. If you go with a company that's reputable, that pays, and that's hard, but you can ask around, then hopefully that's a good way to go, because then you don't, it depends on what kind of work you want to do. If you put your film on Amazon by yourself, then you have to do the advertising.
Gotcha.
If somebody else does it for you, they do it for you, but you take a smaller cut of the deal,
Okay. I'm just going to put in the chat box here. I want to make sure Robin had asked Flixa. Am I spelling it? Is that it?
F-L-I-X-A.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Robin was asking. All right. And one last question here. We had one last question in the Q&A box. Do you recommend a sales agent versus an aggregator? Do you think one is more beneficial over another?
I think a sales agent. A sales agent. They come to us, we have a film, they take the film, they try to sell it. An aggregator is gathering many films and then going either themselves and making deals with these platforms, but you're just part of a bigger bundle. So it depends, it depends on your film and how, if you don't have a sales agent, an aggregator is good.
Okay. All right. So overall, an aggregator. Overall, a sales
agent. That's just yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So for anybody that may want to keep in touch with you or find out maybe more about StoneStreet Studios or just more about you in general, is there a way they can contact you? A website maybe? Is that the best thing to do? Should they contact you through the StoneStreet website?
Yeah, you can find us through our website, which is StoneStreet.net.
Okay.
StoneStreet's one word, but you can also DM us through our IG, which is just at StoneStreet Studios. And you can follow.
Okay. So I put that up there. And then they can DM you through Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Which is at StoneStreet Studios is your Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, so I put those both up there. And all right, StoneStreet. And there's a contact button on StoneStreet.net. They can contact you, and then StoneStreet Studios on Instagram. If you have any additional questions or want to find out more about StoneStreet or about Alyssa, or just if you want to maybe tell her about your project or have any questions.
I have, if you're interested, I have my own director's website, which is just Alyssa Rallo Bennett, AlyssaRalloBennett.com. And if that's helpful to see, it took me a while to figure out, you know, how to lay out all of my work and how to do that. If it's helpful to look at from that perspective, you can look at it.
All right, cool. All right, there's the website as well. And if they contact you, they could just put in the subject, met you at Big Apple conference or something like that.
Yes, you should. Yeah, because I get a lot of emails. Yeah.
All right, cool. And lastly, Nora just said she was asking, is it Flixa Film? She's not able to find it. Is there a way to? Is there a maybe their website or something?
It's a, you know, it's a membership, Flixa. I just put I put Flixa in, and it says Flixa-TV.com.
Oh.
And www. And my Alexa just went off because I said that.
I just put it Flixa-TV.com, right?
Yeah, and that should take you to them, and you can like check them out and see, you know, what kind of things they do and how they lay it out and so on. I think they're very classy.
All right, cool. Yeah. Nora and Robin said they both found it, so awesome.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you so much, Alyssa. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thanks for everything you do. Yeah.
Valuable information. And in about 15 minutes at 1 o'clock, we'll have our final panel with Matthew Butler-Hart and Tori Butler-Hart, who are both filmmakers and authors, as well as Jon Fitzgerald, who is the founder of Film Festival Mastery and acquisitions at Filmocracy. And he's also the co-founder of the Slamdance Film Festival, as well as former festival director at AFI. So he will be with us in 15 minutes. We'll see you at 1 o'clock. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here today. We're to talk about film festival strategies and how to navigate the world of film festivals and distribution in these difficult and challenging times that we're living in. And we do have our final panel now, and our speakers with us. We have Matthew Butler-Hart, who is a filmmaker and an author, and Tori Butler-Hart. So hi and welcome. They are joining us from England. So thank you very much for being here. And Matt and Tori, their company is called Fizz and Ginger Films, and they have produced and directed 2 theatrical feature films. And those films are The Isle, as well as Two Down, which premiered at the Manchester Film Festival. And they do have a book coming out as well, to full to the brim with Fizz, Ginger, and Fierce Determination, a modern guide to independent filmmaking. So that book will be coming out in spring 2021. So we're looking forward to that. So thank you so much to Matt and Tori for being here. And then we have with us Jon Fitzgerald. So Jon is the founder of Film Festival Mastery. He's the head of acquisitions for Filmocracy, and he is also the co-founder of the Slamdance Film Festival, as well as previously was the festival director for AFI. So Jon, thank you for being here as well. Great to see you.
Happy to be here.
And yeah, it's a cool background. I like that.
Yeah. Thank
you. The Man's Theater.
Yeah,
awesome.
little flashback.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So that was sort of my intro, but let me turn it over first to Matt and Tori. If you could just tell us just a bit about your background as filmmakers and your experiences at festivals and the projects that you developed and that you're currently developing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we both originally trained as actors, and Tori still does act. But yeah, so we've actually done 4 of our own feature films now, but we've also worked with other people getting their feature films up and running. They're all very much sort of British indie films. So we have a new one coming out soon as well with Ian McKellen as well. But we, partly because we didn't really, to be honest, know what we were doing. Film festivals were an amazing way into the world for us. You know, we started with short films and slowly grew and grew and grew. And a lot of the people that we work with, we sort of collected from film festivals. You know, we learned a lot by just going to them, attending them, you know, listening to the talks, but learning a lot about the root of a film and its life, where it starts and where it ends up. I think, you know, film festivals have taught us a lot, and that includes, you know, that goes right back to knowing where the end is informing us now at the beginning of a script as well, which I don't know if you want to talk about that. That gets too much into things, but
yeah. But basically, in effect, we both started out as actors, not knowing at all what we were doing, and so sort of going about it probably completely sort of the wrong way round, but we
sort of taught us a unique perspective, and hence them asking us to write the book about sort of the way we have done things, which is ever changing for a start as well.
Yeah.
Great. All right, thank you. And Jon, about your background.
Sure. Well, I guess the top line view is I did a film in '94 that didn't get into Sundance, so me and a couple of the guys started Slamdance. So I kind of fell into the festival thing, but I learned that I had a knack for it, and I really enjoyed the idea of presenting these films to industry and to audiences, and the idea of discovery. So I ended up kind of shifting careers a bit there and put my filmmaking career on hold, and ended up running that festival for 3 years, and then became the festival director for AFI, as you said. Got bit by the .com bug and went to iFilm and ran programming for them. I did that for a while, and then was brought back into the festival space with Santa Barbara, ran that for a year. So after doing that, I realized that we went from having a few hundred festivals to a few thousand festivals, and filmmakers were really struggling to plan their festival strategy. So I started a company that consulted to filmmakers, helping them on their strategies, festival and distribution, and then also helping festivals figure out how to launch. So I've worked with dozens of festivals over the years, and it's been an awesome opportunity. And at some point, I decided I want to get back to making films. So I made a half a dozen documentaries in the last 10 years or so, and really gravitated towards what I call social impact films. It's kind of been my sweet spot, and did a book called Filmmaking for Change, and have then taken that to my new venture, which is iGems.tv, which is a guide to help people find quality content, because as we all know, there's just too much out there. So iGems stands for a guide to engaging movies and series. And then, as you said, Film Festival Mastery, I started with a partner a little about 6 months ago, again, realizing that it was really dramatic for filmmakers to plan their festival strategies, especially with COVID, what was happening in this space. So Justin Giddings, who was the Kickstarter guy, and I started Film Festival Mastery thanks to Paul June at Filmocracy.com, which is a streaming platform that we'll talk a little bit about later, I'm guessing, because now they're providing that to film festivals. Right. So that's the snapshot.
All right, cool, thank you. So Matt and Tori, your two first features, were those released theatrically initially?
So, Two Down, it had a very tiny little sort of cinema release, but this was after about a year and a half of festivals and things like that, to be honest. So we because we did another film before that called Missing Her Teens, which was based on an 18th century play, and we were asked to do that one. So Two Down, I suppose, we do consider as our first film that we wrote and produced and everything. So it had a very small a few sort of cinema Q&A sort of things, but that was after a while of doing festivals. And then The Isle, that was in 2019, so it was in cinemas in the US in February, and then over here in the summer of 2019. But again, we'd spent almost a year at festivals and things before that as well. And then the new one was meant to be at cinemas, but our cinemas over here are very closed at the moment, so that's not happening, I'm afraid. Very sad.
Right. And hopefully soon, but we'll see what the future holds. Did you find that your festival run, that year and a half, did that benefit you greatly once you went into the theatrical marketplace? And if so, how so?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helped us get to the theatrical in the first place, to be honest. I think for both, especially for Two Down, because it was a really small budget, because we thought it was our sort of calling card. So it was purposely very small. We wanted to sort of show that we can do this with this amount of money. But also, it was a small British indie film. So we knew we had to find platforms to get it out there and to get reviews and awards and things. At the end of the day, distributors, it just makes their job easier if they can, we can go, look, oof, here's a load of reviews, this is what people think about it, to the sort of audiences that liked it.
And cast wise as well, that's always a big player. That we had Conleth Hill from Game of Thrones, but he wasn't like sort of a huge name. So names are always one of the first things that distributors kind of look at. It's like the first question they ask you, who's in it. And so for indie films on the level that sort of we make them at, it's yes, on new one's got Ian McKellen, which is sort of like a different kind of kettle of fish, but it always helps if you've got that sort of festival backing behind it. It just sort of gives the distributors that sort of reassurance.
Exactly. And how realistically, the laurels on the poster really help for certain distributors as well, because we would sort of target distributors who were lived in that sort of world and understood sort of indie films, and it just makes their life easier, to be honest, if they have something tangible. It's not just the film that they're selling, it's the idea around it and it's the audience around it,
and it opened up,
it adds credibility.
Right,
hugely.
exactly.
Yeah, I
totally.
mean, I'm trying to avoid saying it basically means it's kind of a proper film.
But I think it opened up doors for us as well, because Two Down did so well at a lot of festivals. It came up on the radar of the BFI, and they do this kind of London screenings program where they screen.
It's a week of sort of discovered very small films that they sort of they give a platform to people who in the industry who normally wouldn't see these films, and it's because of the festivals that we've got on there. Exactly. Said,
And then so then when that screened, what happened was that a whole load of finance guys came to see it, and then they contacted us and asked us what other stuff we had on our slate, and then the aisle then came into fruition, because they then gave us the money to make the aisle. So it was a kind of knock-on effect, basically, and it had all started from basically the film doing really well at festivals.
Right. So let me and for anyone who has questions or wants to tell us a bit about their film, or has some questions regarding festival strategy or anything, please put it in the Q&A box. So any questions, just put it right into the Q&A box. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go over to Jon and ask you, how do you see the festival landscape changing now with the whole virtual world? I mean, do you think festivals will go back to the way they used to be, or do you think we're going to see more virtual festivals now, or more of a hybrid thing? What do you think is going to happen now?
I definitely think it's a combination of both. We're shifting more to hybrid, certainly for the fall season. I do think that virtual is here to stay. Certainly there have been enough examples from the spring of last year, and festivals like CPH Docs and Ashland, a bunch of festivals quickly pivot to digital, and then we saw things like AFI and Sundance, right, double ticket sales. So clearly it's working. Everybody panicked, but most festivals managed to pivot. And I think that the trick is to, one of the things we talk with film festival mastery filmmakers about is, what are your goals for the festival? You guys are a great example of, being able to play festivals and not just get laurels, but actually develop relationships and generate some exposure that can lead to your next project. And in fact, that is something that festivals in this strange time have to really work through. And one of the things that Filmocracy Fest did very successfully, and I think some of these other festivals, clearly Sundance and South by, did well too, is create these panel discussions and create networking opportunities. Bring filmmakers, the number 2 thing on their list, we did a big survey, is always networking. Yes, they want to try and sell their movie. Yes, they want laurels, but ultimately they want to network. They want to collaborate. They want to meet filmmakers. They want to meet industry professionals. So we brought 50 industry professionals in to be on panels, on juries, on talks, and forced discussions into the equation. And filmmakers were raving about just the opportunity, even virtually, to be able to connect with people. So I think if the festivals that do it right can really integrate networking and create opportunities, and some festivals are recording the Q&As if the filmmaker can't be there. Clearly, not everybody was able to make it to Park City, so it opened up the doors for audiences all over the country to be able to see movies. So I think there is a positive here, even though it's obviously frustrating. You don't get the standing ovation, you don't get the live Q&A. There are some downsides, but I think it's here to stay. And I think the smarter festivals are going to create membership programs and have year-round programming now.
And for the hybrid model, which, like you said, very well can end up being sort of the future here. If you have certain films play live in a movie theater and other films are only playing virtually, how do the filmmakers that are screening virtually feel that they're also getting an equal experience and an equal amount of value as to the people who are in the theater? Is there a way to do that?
I don't think it's a bit of apples and oranges. And I think it ultimately, you have to meet people where they are, and you have to provide opportunities where you can. And I think if you're a filmmaker that wants to play live, and that's the end game for you, then you need to play festivals that are doing hybrid. And that's just the bottom line. If that is not as critical for you, it's more important for you to play some festivals that aren't doing hybrids, but are in fact some more credible than others. You could still, I mean, movies are being bought and sold virtually, right? Sundance sold a ton of movies.
Right.
So, I mean, there's still acquisitions being made, and there's still interactions with communities via these online virtual festivals. So I think I think it's apples and oranges to compare the live versus the virtual. I think it kind of comes back to, what is the filmmaker trying to get out of that experience? And I think the most important factor, other than just the networking and the potential acquisition, is how this changes your overall festival run, right? How it affects your timeline. Because again, one of the things that filmmakers have to think about is, you know, if I finish my film for this date, then I can hit that first wave of submissions, and then I hope to get into these festivals, and then that shifts to the next. So we had festivals obviously that pulled out of South by last year when they moved to Amazon, and all these different things affected that timeline for that filmmaker. And I think that's almost more important than whether it's playing in a drive-in or in a theater with 25 people or virtual.
Right. And for Matthew and Tori, what are, as filmmakers yourselves, what is your thoughts? What are your thoughts on virtual festivals? Do you find them valuable? I mean, or do you find them perhaps in some ways more valuable than in person?
I think the networking thing is a really interesting point, that was kind of like number two for filmmakers, or on what really matters to them. Because I think at the end of the day, what festivals allow within that networking entity is they to create your support bubble, because filmmaking, you can sometimes feel quite lonely, even though there's like loads of people doing it. You know, when you accrue, you lose your crew, and then it's just you guys pushing your film, trying to get it seen and get it out there. But actually, what's really lovely is connecting to other filmmakers who are going through exactly the same thing, and that can become your support bubble. And also, those are the people who, you know, it kind of acts as like a marketing tool as well, that you know, we remember films that we've seen at festivals. We might not have even actually watched them, but we remember the titles. You know, we remember seeing them. Oh, hang on a minute, that was at such and such. And so when it kind of comes down the line, and you know, and it's then available, you're there, you're kind of supporting it, you're behind the film because you've spoken to the filmmakers, you've made that connection, that kind of, you know, sort of support.
Yeah, and I suppose, yeah, because I mean, because with Infinitum, we're doing a couple of festivals, but it had already picked up distribution. So we just did Boston Sci-Fi. Obviously, we can't fly over there at the moment, so it was entirely virtual, and it was great. I mean, the time difference was a little tricky, but being able to talk to people in sort of a curated networking thing was great. It sort of does make it much easier to most. I mean, I really miss going to festivals, and I love going to them, and it's at Manchester next week as well, in a couple of weeks' time, and they're doing the same sort of thing where people can meet and chat. Yeah. I think it opens things up. You know, I think the hybrid thing is going to be great. Then if you can get to it, fantastic.
Yeah.
But if you can't for some reason, you know, for another part of the country or timing wise, you know, I think it's just going to open things up for a bigger audience, for your film as filmmakers, opportunity to meet more people. So, you know, and, you know, neither of us, we trained as actors, but neither of us are particularly good at networking, or we weren't at first. But when something is curated and you have people sort of leading things, it sort of makes it just a little bit easier. To be honest.
Yeah.
Right. So, Jon, there's a question in the Q&A box here. And again, anybody else who has any questions, feel free to type them in. But anyway, there's a question here that says, I see that festivals are becoming too much political. They don't care much about the quality, but care more about who has made the film, what its gender or sexuality, a kind of response to identity politics. And I see many filmmakers try to sell their project as a work that respected such politics. I wonder how you see this as important for getting into festivals.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. And to just, you know, again, flashback to Park City 1995. One of the reasons why we started Slamdance at the time was that Sundance, in fact, at that particular time was getting a lot of negative criticism for politics. And they were doing a lot with some of the mini majors, and some filmmakers were returning, and politics was definitely part of the conversation. And I think that when you look at festivals now, clearly that's still in play. I'm not going to name festivals necessarily, but I will say that there are some pretty clear paths to find festivals that are doing the right thing and are taking care of filmmakers. And I think it's important to be part of the community and the networking of filmmakers, because they all talk. And I think that you can find strong festivals that have strong ethics and they have solid programmers. And again, it comes back to your goals. Like, what are you trying to achieve out of this? And you want some laurels from some credible festivals, but there's great festivals in you know, tier 2 and tier 3. You just really need to do the homework. You need to know which festivals are worth applying to.
Right. And Scott asked, Scott said, I produced a feature bio documentary about fine art and the botched art restoration, cleaning the Sistine Chapel frescoes, with commentary from writer Tom Wolfe and Met Museum director Thomas Hoving. Both have passed. It ran the film festival circuit in 2010, including Big Apple, but never sold. Unfortunately, it is SD quality, released just before HD became the standard. It never sold, and I still pay about $900 a year for the LLC I formed for my investors. With the increased demand for content, especially the documentary format, is it still worth trying to market this documentary today, or remaster it to HD, which will cost around $15K? The festival avenue has now expired, but I'm curious if there is still a secondary market I can tap into, since the demand for the features has increased. If you got all that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great opportunities. Clearly, you know, depending on who you ask, some will say we're in this golden age of documentary. I think it's certainly thanks to Netflix and a number of other platforms. People are watching documentaries that 5 years ago just weren't watching. So, you know, the audience is growing. They're the buzz titles out of a lot of the major festivals. I think the trick is to not feel like it's, you know, Netflix or die, because obviously, you know, if you're not in that 1% of the top titles, you're not going to land on Netflix. But there, you know, Roku has over 2,500 channels now, and there are plenty of great platforms. See Good TV doing great things with docs. There's another site called Documentary Plus, Curiosity Stream. There's literally dozens of platforms that are showing documentary, and I think it's just a question of getting it out there. There is an audience. You have to learn how to market. You have to think like an entrepreneur, and you have to create the right materials and hustle, and you have to promote. That whole idea of if you build it, they will come doesn't work for independent films. There's too many. I did some research the other day. There's over 15,000 movies on Amazon. There's over 100,000 on iTunes. If you're not driving eyeballs to your movie, they're not going to find it. And I just read the other day, this is applicable to this conversation, is you know, Amazon Direct was kind of the last place filmmakers could go to upload their own movies if they didn't have access to a Netflix or a Hulu or some of these other platforms. And they just literally shut down docs from being able to apply and upload into Amazon Direct. That's a big deal. So you do have to get creative and find those other platforms, but absolutely Right. It doesn't matter what year it took place.
Right. Matt and Tori, how have you tackled marketing on your own, even with a distributor? Like what are some things you did to find an audience for your project?
I guess this latest one's a really interesting example, because, as you said, even though we've got distribution, on the whole, in the past, we've always we have used PR companies and stuff, and then actually found that we've ended up doing quite a lot of the work, and then there's a bill at the end of it, and you're like, okay, what was that for? But this one, we've kind of gone a different route, and because we shot Infinitum during lockdown, and we shot it entirely on an iPhone, and we edited it on Apple software. We approached Apple and basically said to them, we've made this film on an iPhone during lockdown, and so they've actually really got behind the film and are helping us immensely with our marketing of it. So I guess it ties in again with what Jon was saying, in that, you know, kind of thinking outside the box of like what angles can you kind of
that was all started. I think we hadn't even finished the film at this point. So what we've realized is that you have to start this process of where things are going and the PR stuff as you're writing it almost.
Yeah.
One, because distributors, so we spoke to for the book, they're saying so many filmmakers go to distributors and say, you know, there's no genre, you know,
it's for everyone.
It's for everyone, this film. That terrifies distributors. You know, they like, yeah. Okay, so no, but what is my audience? How do I sell this? So thinking about this stuff at script level is incredibly important, and also adjust, you know, but talking to distributors at that level and go, no, realistically, you know, how can I get this to the biggest audience, and how do I do that? But you know, so all the PR stuff we start way before the film's even finished. You know, we've started before, as we're writing, we're thinking, how are we going to get this out there? Who do we start talking to at this point? Which exactly, it's going to be, you know, a year from when we started it, from when it comes out.
And again, it comes back down to networking, and it comes back down to your little kind of bubble of, you know, the connections that you've made in the past, and we managed to get, while we were still filming, a friend of ours who works for the BBC was doing wanted to do a piece on people who were being creative during the pandemic, and so he got in touch with us because he followed me on Instagram and knew that we were making the film, and so he sent me a direct message and was like, might you be interested can I mention you in this article that I'm doing for the BBC? Don't know whether it's actually going to go, they might not pick it up. And it turned out that actually they did pick it up, and it went to Australia and America, you know, the BBC, it's all over the world. But
also it's not relying on any one thing. Okay, great, that's going to make everything sort of happen. It's going to be just absolutely rinsing any little piece of any little bit of press, anything, and getting it out there. You have to be like your own PR person right from the beginning, basically. Anything that they will be doing, you need to be doing it earlier, more, faster.
I think you need to make sure. You mentioned social media a few minutes ago. You need to be, like you said, when you're writing the script, get the URL for the website, build your social media platforms, and grow your audience. I mean, there's tons of support for the idea of creating niche audiences now. And if you're building a following as you're making the movie and the movie's done, you've got a built-in community that you can reach. And if you've got a marketing software, so you're harvesting emails, sign up for my newsletter, you can end up with thousands of fans, as it were, that will come to your movie. And when you're developing your marketing strategy, whether you hire a PR firm or not, you have to have kind of a marketing grid, you know, where you're thinking about the audiences and you're thinking about the different platforms and how does this platform reach this audience? And there's tons of opportunity via social media. You can spend $1 a day, $5 a day on Facebook, and you can reach tons of people in your audience.
Yeah, you just have to put the work in. We always say, you know, making a film is incredibly hard, but it's sort of almost the easiest part compared to getting it out there. And
the challenge.
There's a question in the Q&A box from TJ. It says, Matt and Tori, could you explain how you tackled fundraising did you build film festival fees into your budget?
Good question.
We did eventually. We didn't start though because we didn't know that. So with Two Down, we were doing festivals for a year and a half, so we spent an absolute fortune, which we had no idea was really a thing, to be perfectly honest. But then we learned. So for the Isle, we absolutely did build it into it. Yeah. But then we also got a bit better at. At first we were just kind of submit to every festival and just throwing money at everything before we sort of realized, well, I mean, Two Down, realistically, tiny little film, look, it's never going to go to this festival.
Is it going to go to Sundance? No, probably not.
But as in, not that it's about it, it's just knowing the audience from the beginning and knowing, so Infinitum, again, little sci-fi sort of film. We've got Ian McKellen in it, but also just working out, okay, so what realistically audiences are going to want to watch this. It's a very much an indie sci-fi, so let's see where those audiences are, and then we'll approach that. So we've just got a bit better at spending our money.
Yes,
I think. But yeah,
that's a really good point actually you make, is that I think a lot of people get hooked on, okay, I'm gonna reverse engineer my scheduling to finish in time to submit to Sundance, and everything's based on getting into Sundance. And the truth is, if they had 14,000 submissions, it's just not good odds. So I think the important thing is to realize there is life outside of Sundance, and that tier 2 and tier 3 festivals can do great things for your movie. We had a client that didn't get into Sundance or South by or Toronto, but then did get into Napa, Santa Barbara, and a few other festivals. They were getting screening fees. They did a 5-figure deal with a distributor. They're thrilled, but you can't hang everything on those top festivals. I think there's
some great indie films, some great films that many people have heard of that have made tons of money that didn't get into Sundance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jon, do you think that festivals are still just as valuable and beneficial if a filmmaker is self-distributing? Do you still need?
Absolutely. I think these guys said it before. I think you almost have to look at film festivals as a marketing vehicle. It's an opportunity to get your movie out and awareness. So let's say your movie plays 50 festivals in different communities across the country. Those are communities now. If your participation is executed properly, you're gonna have awareness in all those communities now. So if you do the festival right, you're actually building an audience and creating awareness throughout the whole process. But I do think it keeps coming back to marketing. And I do believe that we're entering a time where you can kind of take control of your own destiny. You don't need to give your movie to a distributor for 10 or 15 years and let them stick it in their library and not give it the TLC it deserves. You can do it yourself, but you have to understand marketing. And that's something Justin and I are doing now. We just started a movie marketing mastery course. And we think that that's really going to help filmmakers, because you can have a great movie, but it might not make sense to hand it off to one of these libraries. It may make more sense to do it yourself, but you have to understand how to work the festival circuit and how to market.
Right, and that's Film Festival Mastery is the organization, right? There's a question in the chat box. As I mentioned, this is from Robin. Robin was on earlier. Our film has been widely successful over the last 4 months. 131 awards, 89 are now listed on IMDb. All passcode protected screenings, so still virgin as far as distribution goes. People love the film, but we don't know where to go from here. How to find an agent. The film was fascinating, but we have had no success in our pitches. They keep thinking the project isn't finished. How do I find a guide? And
you need a producer's rep.
Gotcha.
Blood, Sweat, Honey, Circus Road, Submarine. Those are the top 3. You have a producer's rep. They're the ones that'll walk you into these platforms and distribution opportunities. It's not easy for an independent filmmaker if you don't have those relationships. If you've won that many awards, though, and you write a good letter, I mean, acquisitions people, that's their job, right? To find content. So if you hustle, you're going to get attention. But I'm a big believer in pulling together an all-star team. And some of these guys will charge up front. Some of them will just take a commission. But pull the all-star team together and find out, who's rep what.
Is companies like Submarine or like Cinetic, are they approachable? I mean, can any filmmaker?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, those 2 companies in particular are handling a lot of the bigger titles out of Sundance and South by, but but there, you know, Circus Road does great things. Blood, Sweat, Honey, Jeff Dowd and Alex Noe, those guys are great. So there are other companies. There's a handful of them out there.
Cool. And Matt and Tori, have you used producers reps or sales agents for any of your projects?
We've used sales agents, yes.
Yeah.
And again, that was sort of like, so for Two Down, we originally had a sales agent who took it on, and we really wanted to do festivals. We thought that was going to be a way, and then she was absolutely no, absolutely not. I'm gonna sell it, and then didn't. And then we said, look, can we just have it back? And then we went and did the 1.5 festivals, and then that was the thing that we then go to other sales company, and they took it to the distributor. So, but then, because of learning a lot about the aisle, so we were very much involved in the distribution side of that as well, because we wanted to learn.
The aisle was like a unique situation in that the finance company also
had
sales
for it.
So we sort of but then we then had Gareth Jones, who sort of works as an exec producer in the UK, but he's a sort of basically a producer rep in that he then sort of directed it towards Lionsgate, and then Lionsgate took it on. So there were other people involved.
But because we sort of were involved very much in that side, we wanted to be. We learned a lot, and we met people, so we collected them as well. That's what we've been. That's what we've done for the last sort of decade or so. Is just collect people, like you're saying. You know, get your network around you. So for Infinitum, we could just much easier. It's taken a decade or so, but to go, hi, here's our new film. You know us because of the on that sort of stuff, and we went directly to them before even festivals and things like that. But we couldn't have done that without having the things in our past, basically.
And was it all that now got you to be able to get Ian McKellen now in your next project? Was it all those being able to?
We've known him for a while, but this is the first one that he's said, yes, I'll definitely be in, because I think he saw the aisle and things like that, so it was easier.
We've worked with him both as actors in the past, so so we already had that connection.
But this is the first time he said yes to being in a film of ours, though. Yeah, so I think being able to prove that, okay, yes, we can make a film. And
I mean, I do also think it's because he was sitting at home doing absolutely nothing because it was lockdown, so he was like, more.
Gotcha.
Oh dear.
And Lisa asks, which iPhone did you use to film it?
So it was the 11 Pro.
11,
it was
one.
It was probably so. It was.
I just got that. That's so funny. I just ordered it the other day.
And use the Filmic Pro app. It's amazing. It really does change. Just gives you a lot more control over the iPhone. And we had a little gimbal, so we could. It was basically because then no rental houses were open, no crews. We weren't allowed to film officially, so it was just us, and then our crew was working remotely. It started off as an experiment that just got a lot bigger. But get a little gimbal, and the things you can do is extraordinary. We've never done it before. We've always used lovely Arri, Alexas, and all that sort of stuff, but always wondered how far can you push an iPhone? And thankfully,
Soderbergh's made two.
Sorry.
I was just say Soderbergh's made 2 of his last 3 or 4 movies with iPhone. But the one thing I'm just going to throw out there, because I learned it after spending more time than I'd like to admit researching this, but the 12 actually comes with this new Dolby Vision something or other, and it's not yet compatible with most editing software. So for those of you out there listening, thinking about going to get the newest one,
I've just got
with the 11.
Yeah.
Do the 11 instead, there we go.
We're still using that, exactly. Yeah.
Scott asks, I guess this is for all of you. Scott said, what comes first, working with the producer's rep or entering film festivals by yourself?
Kind of depends on your budget, honestly. If you don't have somebody helping you, we devote an entire module in our Film Festival Mastery course to getting on the radar. That's probably the hardest thing now for filmmakers at festivals, getting thousands of entries and cutting back their staffs, is just making sure your movie gets seen and getting on the radar. And sometimes, in fact, producers reps can get you on the radar, whether it's a rep or a consultant or somebody. So if you can afford it, or they work on commission, bringing a rep in sooner than later is a good thing. But the truth is, if the film is strong and you follow some getting on the radar tips, ultimately you'll get your festival play, even if it takes a while. It's the rep that's ultimately going to put it in front of the sales companies and the distributors to give you the best chance to find your audience.
Matt and Tori, did you get a rep first, or did you enter festivals by yourself at first?
It's been different each time, hasn't it? So well, no, because as I said, like, 2 down, we had the sales, and then we wanted to go reverse it and go to festivals because we knew that would help us get a better sales company, basically. But just, I mean, I suppose we've usually gone the way of festivals first, haven't we?
Yeah, well, no, because then the Isle
we did.
Gareth was on board to help secure the finance, but then also
we were sort of running two at the same time because we wanted Gareth to be able to go to people like Lionsgate and go, here's some festival, you know, here's reviews and things like that from different festivals around the world. So it kind of shows you the sort of audience as well. So we try to run both at the same time, to be honest. Yeah.
All right. TJ has a question for Jon. It says, Jon, I'm making sci-fi genre shorts. Do you have any tips to jump from dedicated niche festivals to bigger, more prestigious festivals? I find I get traction when the subject of the films are identity politics, but less so when I tackle subjects like utopias and technology, even though they are more visually engaging due to a dedicated VFX budget.
Well, I think, you know, one of the keys, again, to getting attention at these festivals, and I do think that most festivals outside of the niche festivals will look at that genre. It's just about competing and understanding what types of programs they're putting together. Most festivals now are putting them in blocks, and festivals will look at all the submissions, come up with a short list, and then try and put the blocks together accordingly, unless there's something trending and they feel like they have to do something and find films to fit that trend. But I think that, you know, two of the things that I find most helpful when I'm looking at movies as a festival director is looking at their artwork, their key art, and their trailer. And I think that sometimes those things get taken for granted. You know, and I'll be honest, I know there are some festival directors that will say, I don't want to see any materials, I just want to watch it cold. I'm not that guy. I actually like to look at a trailer, and if I can look at a 30-second teaser or a 2-minute trailer and think, wow, this is amazing, this is going to get an audience, and I want this movie, that can help you. So I would say think about your materials as you're submitting, and whether you're using Film Freeway or another service, you know, there are opportunities to put that information into your submission package.
Right. Also, Jon, I had a question for you that I meant to ask you earlier when we were talking about hybrid festivals. So our festival, like the last one we did, the majority of the films were screened virtually, but then we had a small percentage that screened at a drive-in, which was pretty much the same model that the Hamptons Festival did this year, as well as Woodstock. They had maybe 20% in person and about 80% virtually. If that type of model continues into the future, how can the filmmakers who are only screening virtually feel that they're receiving sort of the same value as the people in person? What would make a filmmaker not say like, you know, I really wanted the movie theater, I'm going to be online? Like, is there some kind of value you can give to the people who are just virtual?
Well, that's a good question. I'd say one of the things that's becoming increasingly important to filmmakers, as you know, that there have been screening fees that a tiny percentage of films are earning on the festival circuit. Certainly, films that are represented by agents and producers reps are sometimes commanding screening fees. I think what we're seeing more and more of now, and it's going to increase, is a revenue share. And I think that part of what could be a sell, if you will, is to tell these filmmakers that they're going to get a revenue share, perhaps even greater, if they're willing to participate in the online platform. And again, that we talked about this already, but the idea of festivals kind of encroaching into the distribution territory. You know, if they create a membership model, or they're putting their movies on, you know, in an on-demand theater so that audiences can check them out over the course of a week. It's like TVOD basically. So they have to be really careful if they're thinking about future distribution. But I do think that the revenue share concept is something that is going to grow. And it is something, in fact, in that survey we talked about, that filmmakers said they wanted. So I think festivals are going to have to figure that piece out. And honestly, because festivals are spending less money now on hospitality, they're not flying as many filmmakers in, they're not paying for hotels, they're not having big galas. There's more money there, whether it's applying some of the hospitality budget to a stipend or some type of fee, or a revenue share, or both.
Gotcha. So the virtual filmmakers, let's say, would get a revenue shares, whereas if you're screening in person in the theater, maybe you would not get a revenue share, but you would be screening theatrically, let's say.
Yeah, or there could be some kind of an adjustment, you know, it's give or take. And when I did
Right.
Naples one year, it was like, okay, you're going to fly in. We'll either give you $500 and you can do what you want with it, or you're on your own. And you know, so we'll fly you in and we'll give you a car, or we'll give you $500. And so the filmmaker could decide, I'm going to drive and I'll stay at a friend's house and I want my $500. So I think it's giving them choices is the key.
Right. All right. And lastly, TJ has a question let me start with Matt and Tori. Presently, does anyone make money from box office at any film festivals? Matt and Tori, have you had an opportunity to make money at the box office from any of these festivals thus far?
Not at festivals,
No,
no.
not at
I suppose we haven't. I suppose the Isle, because that was 2019. That was a couple of years ago now. I mean, there was none of the festivals shared their box office. I must admit.
Yeah,
no.
I think that's right. Yeah, pretty sure not. No.
Well, that's why I just brought up this whole idea of revenue share, because I think that's where we're headed. You know, and I'll be honest, we tried that with Filmocracy Fest in December, but it was our first year, and you know we weren't selling thousands and thousands of tickets. So there are only a few filmmakers that actually earned box office revenue, but we did a revenue share with them. And I think that they appreciated the gesture. And I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Cool. All right. And lastly, I just want to ask Matt and Tori first, if you can just tell us where your films, Two Down and Isle, can be seen, and a bit about your new project that's coming out.
So, I mean, it's certainly the Isle. I mean, especially over in America, it's on pretty much anywhere you can rent or buy a film still. And I know
I think it was on Showtime for a long time.
Showtime bought it for ages, and every Halloween it sort of keeps
off
popping
now,
up, which is great.
And
then Two Down, I think, is still on all the platform, any TVOD sort of platforms. I think they still are there. Infinitum is going to come out in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland in March. TVOD
March
again,
22nd.
and then in America and Asia in the summer, but we haven't got a date for that yet. We haven't been told them.
Cool. All right. Well, congratulations on your new film. And Jon, if you could just tell us a bit about Filmocracy.
Yeah, this is a really exciting platform. So Filmocracy launched last year, and it was essentially a streaming platform, but they gamified the viewing, the rating, and reviewing. So they're giving users popcorn, and you could buy things with your popcorn. So it was a really interesting platform, and you had an avatar. It's a lot of fun, and ultimately at some point last year, the founders realized that because of COVID, quite frankly, excuse me, and festivals needing to go virtual, they had built this platform. So they decided to reach out to film festivals and say, look, we've got this platform and we've got this whole gamification model. And oh, by the way, we've got this really cool conferencing technology that we built into our package so that you can actually go into a room and sit at a table and have a chat, and then move to another table, have another chat. We did one in the Bahamas. It was like, you're on the top deck of a yacht, having a conversation. It was virtual, but it was fun. And so I think what they've done is they've taken their filmocracy.com platform and brought it into the festival community. Now they've done, I think, over 50 festivals now, and I'm working with them, obviously. So I'm reaching out to festivals that I've worked with and some that I haven't, and just presenting this as an option. And filmmakers are really enjoying the platform. So I think Filmocracy is here to stay. There's some exciting things happening with them, and I think that film festivals are not going to want to always spend $10,000 on Shift 72 or some of these other tech platforms. Because the other thing that Filmocracy brings to the table for film festivals is they're bringing an audience that's already watching films on their site.
Right.
So a lot of the tech platforms aren't bringing that. It's like, here's the technology, but they're bringing technology, virtual conferencing. They did AFM this year. I mean, they've done some big events, but they're also bringing the users that are watching movies on the site. So they're bringing audiences to the films that are at the festivals. And iGems, and they're like a sister company now. We're working together on so many levels. We're creating a on the circuit carousel at iGems. So we're going to be guiding people, audiences to festivals and to films. And certainly a number of them will be Filmocracy fests. But I think it's exciting.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, I want to just give the participants an opportunity to keep in touch with all of you, and we'll talk about that in just a second. In the last like 2 minutes here, I just want to quickly there's one question. It says, John, but I heard the sponsorship opportunities might get decreased because of the online screening model. Is that true? If this happens, will the revenue of the festival get decreased?
I think it's a trade-off. I certainly think there are a number of sponsors that really like, to reach out and touch communities. Car companies want people, seeing their cars and test drive. And there's a whole bunch of activations that you can't really have if it's virtual. But I'll also say that if you have created the right platform, we have this village and the map, and you could go into floor plans. There's lots of interesting visual display and opportunities for sponsors. You can still show the pre-rolls just like you would see on an ad on Hulu. There's opportunities for sponsors to still generate eyeballs, and I would even argue more eyeballs. If Sundance and AFI are doubling their ticket sales, that's more people watching the movies, which means more people are coming to the site that could have exposure to your brand. So I think it's a different model, but I don't think it's worse. It's just different.
Right. I wonder if the thing about Sundance doubling their ticket sales, though, is actually a deterrent for distributors then, because they're losing perhaps some ticket sales,
Yeah, that's a whole other panel discussion. The whole idea of how I think film festivals are becoming distributors in a way, and that's a whole other thing. And I think again, it depends on the content, and it depends on the goals for the filmmaker.
Right. And all right. And TJ asked, what so far has been the most successful festival on Filmocracy?
Ooh. I know San Diego did really well. And I know that the AFM was hugely successful. So I would say probably San Diego and AFM. I mean, they both use slightly different bells and whistles, but and again, success is kind of a subjective term, right? I mean, we had 50 films at Filmocracy Fest, and the filmmakers are raving about their experience there, but most of them didn't make any money. So if you had a revenue share and you went to one of these festivals, you could be happier, but the networking is critical.
Right. All right. And lastly, Robin said, as a filmmaker, can you show your film and then continue to enter festivals? So like Matt and Tori, did you still enter festivals after your movie was already out?
We didn't. A lot of festivals, a lot of festivals tend to not hugely like it if it's out there, to be honest. Some festivals approached us after it had been out and they wanted to show it. So obviously we said, of course, because we love it, but most of them don't really like it if it's somewhere out there.
Well, yeah, because quite often they like to have, maybe
some kind of premiere.
Yeah, some kind of premiere. So maybe it's not world premiere, but that country, regional,
or Europe and things.
Yeah.
I always
there's a variation on audience caps that I think is becoming part of the conversation, right? So a lot of the films that we showed had a very specific audience cap. So you could only sell 500 seats, or you can only sell 1,000 seats. And so I think that's trying to do something to preserve the distribution and not alienate potential distribution. But there are, I would say 90% of the legitimate festivals out there would not necessarily show your movie if, for example, it's stayed up on Amazon or on a public streaming platform.
Right.
Like if it's there for a limited time or it's geo-blocked, that's fine, but that's a different scenario.
Right. Yeah. That's like I tried to grab a bunch of tickets for some of the Sundance films virtually, and it said sold out. I'm like, sold out, but it's online. But yeah, that's why
they capped them
because of the distributors. Right. Robin meant specifically for Filmocracy. Can you show a movie on Filmocracy and then still enter film festivals?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, you could show a film at Filmocracy Fest, or you could show something that was capped and it was a limited time. You wouldn't want to necessarily put a movie into the Filmocracy rotation that was always available 24/7 if you were planning on still playing the festival circuit.
Right.
You do your festival run and then come to Filmocracy.
Gotcha. All right. So if any of the participants have any, further questions or want to tell you a bit about their film or anything like that, is there a way they can keep in touch with you that I can put here in the chat box, like a website? Well, for Matt and Tori, you guys have a website where they can contact you?
Yeah.
I'll type it in.
fizzandgingerfilms.co.uk.
Yeah, I mean, if you put Fizz and Ginger into any of the social media things, we'll pop up, and we'll always very happy to say hello.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's I think I got this right. Fizz and Ginger Films. That's it, right? Fizzandgingerfilms.co.
That's the one. Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. And John put his here as well, john@igems.tv. And if anyone contacts you in the subject, they should just put like met you at Big Apple Film Festival Conference, Big Apple Conference, something like that. Okay, perfect. And then John's also moviemarketingmastery.com.
Yes, that's
all right.
Yeah, that's the new course.
Yeah, sounds great.
Definitely checking that out.
All right, nice.
Never
All right, so
It's beta. It's still in beta. We're still working it out, but it's going to be cool.
That sounds amazing.
all right, so there's their contact info, and just put Big Apple Conference, whatever in the subject, so they know who you are. And I want to thank Matthew Butler-Hart and Tori Butler-Hart. Thank you very much for joining us from England, and we're looking forward to checking out your next film and your previous films for anyone who hasn't seen them, and your book coming out in the spring. So we're looking forward to it. And
I need to read the book.
It comes out in America before it comes out anywhere else in the world, so you'll have it before we do. Yeah,
June,
awesome.
right? I think.
Yes, I think it's actually June. Yeah, I think because of COVID, everything got shunted slightly,
back.
but
Yeah.
all right, cool. Thank you. And Jon Fitzgerald, thank you so much. Again, Film Festival Mastery, check it out. And thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.